now for the first time on TV. The stories and reports of the people who fly and the aircraft they fly. And you are invited in an exciting, pulse-pumping new television series designed for everyone who has ever gazed skywards and dreamt of slipping the bonds of Earth. The Aviators.
This week on The Aviators, we visit the biggest air show on Earth in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We take a look at a World War II trainer, the Tiger Moth biplane. We check out a cargo-moving giant, the C-5M Super Galaxy. We talk to Miracle on the Hudson hero, First Officer Jeff Skiles. And we take you inside an airplane cockpit when things go terribly wrong. From the Boundary Bay Airport, this is The Aviators.
It's the world's biggest celebration of aviation. Singles, twins, ultralights, heritage planes, fighter jets, helicopters, gears, and gadgets. If it's aviation, it's here. We're in Oshkosh, and this is AirVenture.
It is tough to really get the sheer magnitude of AirVenture. As you can tell with the air show going by, it really is aviation's family reunion. Think about 1,400 acres, 10,000 airplanes, more than 500,000 people, 800 exhibitors, even 1,100 portable toilets. I mean, it's this kind of size. This event is bigger than anything we ever thought of before. And it really became something that was a presentation for the entire world of flight.
Can you tell us a little bit about the roots of AirVenture?
Sure. It started in 1953, just 9 months after the organization was born, as just a little fly-in as part of a Wisconsin air show down in Milwaukee. It continued to grow. It moved to Rockford, Illinois in 1959, and then in 1970 moved here to Oshkosh. So this is our 40th year in Oshkosh, and it has grown to be one of the world's largest aviation events and the world's largest fly-in. Very early on, there was a culture to the gathering that made it very special. It didn't matter what you flew, what airplane you liked, what you wanted to fly someday, you were welcome here. It was not just exclusively for warbirds or home builds or anything like that. It was for everybody because we all enjoy flying.
A strange aerial creature made its appearance over the skies of Oshkosh as the Virgin Galactic VMS Eve flew its maiden public flight. On board was billionaire Sir Richard Branson, who is developing Virgin Galactic, the world's first spaceline. Developed by pioneering aeronautic designer Burt Rutan, the quad jet engine craft will be the mothership to launch the space module Spaceship Two. The first carry flight is scheduled to take place at the end of this year. The military is always at Oshkosh, and we had a look at the Boeing C-17 Globemaster. With its first flight in September 1991, the C-17 is one of the U.S. Air Force's newest tactical airlifters. Powered by the same engines as the Boeing 757, the C-17 can be used to carry troops, supplies, and even a 70-ton M1 Abrams tank.
This was my first time at Oshkosh, and I am literally in sensory overload. Be you student pilot, airline pilot, hangar pilot, you need to come to Oshkosh.
Flying and navigation today have been revolutionized by technology. That applies to aircraft in all classes of aviation. It can be easy to forget what flying was like just 80 years ago. The de Havilland Tiger Moth biplane is an example of one of those early aircraft that is still seen around the world today. With a top speed lower than that of most cars, just 109 miles per hour, and a range nearly half that of a Cessna 172, the Tiger Moth was originally designed as a trainer and was built into thousands around the world. Aviators correspondent and Tiger Moth owner, Curtis Arnold, had a chance to chat with fellow Tiger Moth owner Steve Gray about the aircraft's history.
30 years after the Wright brothers learned to fly in 1903, the British military was looking for a new aircraft to train the next generation of pilots. This is a Tiger Moth. This was developed in the 1930s and used to train thousands of pilots for things like World War II. Stephen Gray is one of the pilots of this aircraft. Stephen, tell us a little bit about what this airplane is like to fly.
This airplane's a joy to fly. It's difficult to fly, so it's a great trainer for pilots because they have to have constant attention to the controls. If the pilot is not on top of the controls at all times, the airplane will do what it wants. So you have to be in control of it at all times, and it makes you a really good pilot. You have to feel the airplane when you're flying it, and it's very enjoyable to fly when you finally achieve perfection with the airplane.
So do you know how many of these were built and where they were built around the world?
I know that they were built in Toronto, Ontario. They were built in England, of course, and also in Australia. And as far as I know, there was somewhere around 16,000 aircraft built.
The Tiger Moth was an extremely prevalent trainer throughout the British Commonwealth prior to and during World War II. When compared to its American equivalent, the Stearman Model 75, the Tiger Moth had some significant differences that kept its pilots on their toes.
This aircraft was a much lighter aircraft. It's a smaller aircraft. It has a less powerful engine, but more importantly, it's a less stable airplane, and that's what made the pilots really good. The pilots required constant attention on the controls, and as a result, they had to really feel the airplane to fly it. Most of the other airplanes that were used as trainers in the war didn't require so much skill from the pilot.
And so that made them better off as they moved up to the next aircraft. So what would they do if they learned to fly a Tiger Moth? They would move on to what kinds of aircraft as they progressed?
Well, the second trainer that they would move on to, the more advanced trainer, would be the airplane like the Harvard. And that was a larger airplane with a larger engine, of course, and retractable landing gear. And it was more like the fighters that they would eventually fly.
Part of a team of aerobatic pilots, Curtis and Steve do formation Tiger Moth flying in various air shows around Canada. As part of the 2009 Cross-Canada Century flight, Curtis brought the Tiger Moth into Fredericton, New Brunswick, where the colorful biplane attracted quite a crowd.
A pretty warm reception, I would say. We've flown the airplane a couple of times today, and there's been lots of people taking pictures of it, and we haven't been able to get close to it all day because everybody else is enjoying it, which is great. That's what it's for. Well, we think the centennial flight's a pretty significant thing in Canada, and we think that the Tiger Moth played a pretty important role in the history of aviation in this country. There were thousands of them produced at Downsview in Ontario, and thousands of pilots in Canada learned to fly in these and flew them after the war themselves at home. So for us, this was an opportunity to bring a Tiger Moth back to the birthplace of aviation in Canada.
Flying a Tiger Moth into Sydney, Nova Scotia was physically strenuous thanks to the plane's entirely hands-on controls. Curtis enlisted the help of fellow pilot Dave White to help get the job done.
It's worth noting that Dave has an airplane that would have done this very simply in one hop IFR over all that bad weather yesterday. Instead, he chose to try the real thing, and 9 hours, 2 days, and 5 fuel stops to get here from Brampton. So Tiger Moth isn't much of a cross-country aircraft. We do 75 knots. We have to stop every 150 miles for fuel, and it's pretty fatiguing. You know, if you do 8 hours in this airplane in a day, you're whipped at the end of that day. And coming through the mountains, we were lucky the winds were calm, but the air currents are such that you're on top of the airplane all the time to keep the blue side up.
Dave has a particularly unique way of looking at flying a Tiger Moth.
Flying a Tiger Moth's a lot like standing on a basketball. If you let go of it for, a second and a half or 2 seconds, it will be upside down. It's not what I would call a stable platform. I would never want to fly at IFR, certainly.
It's a scary thought.
But you don't let go of it while you're flying. But it's certainly a lot of fun. It's a whole different flying experience.
This, my friend, is why not everybody flies Tiger Moths.
This is the reason Cessnas have starters.
Sitting open to the air, Tiger Moth pilots of the day felt privileged just to have a small windshield, let alone a fully enclosed cockpit. However, Curtis feels that this is one of the benefits of flying a Tiger Moth.
So a Tiger Moth is a little more challenging to fly than some other of the modern aircraft, but it's a great deal of fun to be out here with the wind blowing around in your hair. You can actually smell the farmers' fields in the summertime. It's wonderful.
As we continue to move forward in aviation with faster engines, composite materials, and full-glass cockpits, it's easy to lose track of just how far we've come. The Tiger Moth is not an easy aircraft to fly. It's a physically and mentally taxing aircraft, but it gives the pilots a chance to return to the roots of aviation and to experience the Earth in a very visceral way that few other aircraft can offer. We at the Aviators believe that this tough old bird will be around for another 80 years. Providing rapid air mobility, the U.S. Air Mobility Command are the pack mules of the United States Air Force. The AMC's 136,000 personnel operate aerial fuel tankers, VIP aircraft such as Air Force One, and heavy airlifters such as the C-5M Super Galaxy. The C-5M is the latest in the C-5 line of aircraft, which dates back to 1961. With upgraded electronics and new engines, the C-5M is a cargo-moving giant. The Aviators had a chance to sit down with C-5M pilot Lieutenant Colonel Mike Simo.
I started flying the 172. I have 39 hours in single-engine propeller aircraft. The Air Force trains its pilots, and I'm very grateful for that training. I went off to pilot training and learned how to fly T-37s for 6 months and T-38s, which is actually on the right side of the aircraft, and I did fly those for 6 months supersonic. After that 1 year of pilot training, I went on to C-21s, and I flew Learjets for 3 years for the Air Force, and then I transitioned to C-5s in 1995. I have approximately 3,000 hours in the C-5, and been doing it for 14 years.
The C-5M can go anywhere. At maximum takeoff weight, the minimum runway length is just 8,300 feet. For landing, it's even less, at a mere 4,900 feet. This allows the Super Galaxy to put its 225,000-pound payload where the troops need it when they need it.
The most incredible thing about C-5 is the amount of cargo it moves and the distance it moves it in. You know, moving 120,000 pounds of cargo, to put that in layman's terms, I've moved 5 MRAPs at a time from Charleston, South Carolina, where the factory is at, to Baghdad or Al-Assad, Iraq. And that is one of the most satisfying things we do, is delivering that equipment in a timely manner to our soldiers. That is the job of this aircraft, and that's where I take my most pride from.
Featuring full-width cargo doors at the nose and tail, the C-5M is the largest aircraft in the U.S. fleet, 6 stories high with a maximum takeoff weight equal to 56 elephants. It's so big, a lot of people question how this aircraft can even fly.
We get that a lot. How can it fly? It is basic physics. It's based on wing surface. We have a very large wing surface. The slats and the wings are designed for short field takeoffs and short field landings to allow us to do it at slower speeds. But as those retract, they're swept wing aircraft that allow us to go 0.77 Mach, which is 77% speed of sound as our cruise, all the way up to 0.825. And that equates to about 525 miles an hour. So the range of the aircraft is incredible, and that allows us to take all the way up to 225,000 pounds of cargo on the floor. The max I've taken is 180,000, and our normal load is about 120,000. But with the new M model, with the new engines, the power, and the fuel savings, allows us to go direct from Dover, Delaware to Baghdad with 120,000 pounds of cargo. And that's the amazing part of the aircraft. It accomplishes its mission.
While the C-5 has been around since the early 60s, the C-5M model is the most recent modernization of the aircraft. Several modifications were made to the existing C-5s to extend the life of the aircraft. The new engines on the C-5M have a lifetime 5 times longer than their predecessor. This has a combined effect of saving the taxpayer money while making the aircraft more reliable for the troops on the ground.
In addition to the maintenance reliability of the engines and the aircraft, we also have additional power, 22% more thrust out of the engine. They're also what they call derated, which they're rated at 60,000 pounds of thrust, and they're derated at 50,000 pounds of thrust, which allows us to take off at higher temperatures with that thrust. So now we can take off on shorter runways with more fuel, more cargo, and carry it farther. And that's allowing us to skip the en route destination. We're always attempting to work with our partners, our engineering partners, and our contractors to improve the airplane, and that's our goal. We're always improving, always making it better, more maintainable, always trying to save money.
Maintaining a fleet of tactical airlifters is not cheap. The C-5A and B models cost over $167 million each. Upgrading these aircraft to the M models is estimated to cost taxpayers $13 billion. This is one of the reasons Lieutenant Colonel Simo feels air shows like AirVenture are so important.
This is your aircraft. It's not my aircraft. They just let me fly it. And it's very interesting to show people what they get for their taxpayer money. And it's very important to show them that we are using every dime to squeeze as much as we can out of each airplane, save every drop of fuel, and move the cargo to the troops. And that's who we really serve, is the young soldier downrange when we deliver that MRAP, when we deliver that Humvee. That's what you get from us, and that's interesting to show all the people that are out here what we do and how we do it.
Jeff Skyle is famous for his role on Miracle on the Hudson, but today we're going to talk with Jeff about him as a pilot. Jeff, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, thank you.
How did it all begin? How How did Jeff get into aviation?
Well, my parents were both pilots. You know, my dad was a college professor. They weren't professional pilots, but my dad had a commercial instrument. My mother had a private license. And my whole time growing up, they had airplanes. They had a Piper Tri-Pacer and later a Cessna 182. So, you know, from the first moment that I can remember, I wanted to be a pilot. I never wanted to be anything else.
Is there one moment that you can remember during your training that really sticks out as sort of that defining moment? Yes, I want to be an airline pilot.
I don't really think that there was any particular defining moment that I can recall, that I can look back on, that, you know, made me want to become a pilot. I just always wanted to be one. I mean, all I ever read when I was a kid was about flying airplanes. I remember when the Flying magazine would come in the mail and I have it read cover to cover by nightfall. You know, it's always been something I've been excited about.
So we're curious, Jeff, you had just started on the A320. What experiences did you have leading up to that?
Well, I've been working for U.S. Airways for 24 years. I started out as a flight engineer on a 727, which they still flew then, and I became a first officer on that. And when they parked those airplanes, I flew DC-9 for a long time. That's still my highest time aircraft, DC-930. I was a captain on the Fokker for a number of years, a Fokker 100. And right prior to being trained on the A320, I was a 737 first officer for about 8 years.
So now there's a wide variation in aircraft. What do you think are the differences between those aircraft you flew?
Well, you know, my favorite airplane will always be the DC-9. I just thought that was a perfect airplane for the usage, that it was simple, it was easy to understand, the systems were very easy, it was the perfect airplane for that role. Unfortunately, they don't make them anymore, and the Douglas Aircraft Company doesn't exist anymore.
Did you find it difficult jumping from aircraft to aircraft, or do you think the experience has sort of bled into learning the new systems?
Well, in the airline world, I actually have flown relatively few airplanes. Most people jump airplane to airplane much faster than that. But obviously, the A320 and the Fokker 100 are the most sophisticated airplanes I flew. I did get the opportunity to fly the A380. Wow. Last fall. They invited us, both Sully and I, over, and Sully went in June and I went over in October to Toulouse, France, and actually got to fly the airplane for 2 hours. Not just the simulator, but actually fly in the airplane, and that was quite something.
That moment that the 320 hit the water, what were you experiencing? What was going through your head?
Well, I mean, I was always real positive about it. Obviously, initially, we thought we were going to restart an engine and then fly back to an airport. And obviously, that became something we couldn't do. But after that, I was always positive. I thought, why couldn't we land this airplane in the water? It's been done before, and we did it too.
What sorts of things, the senses, the auditory, the feelings, what sorts of things were happening at the exact moment that it touched down?
Well, at the exact moment that it touched down, I mean, it banged on the tail fairly hard, but then it seemed like it was flowing, or the water just flowed over the airplane. It just, cascaded over the windshield. It seemed like we were going to the bottom of the river. But then it popped up in that tail low attitude that you saw in the pictures, and it was just kind of bobbing back and forth in the waves a little bit. And I turned to Sully and I said, well, that wasn't so bad. It was just over in just moments, and then next thing was to evacuate the airplane. I stayed behind and conducted the emergency evacuation checklist, but Sully had to jump up because for some reason, we lost all battery power. So our public address system wasn't powered, and nobody knows why that happened exactly. But he had to jump up and command the evacuation verbally and help the flight attendants get the rafts inflated.
So they say it was about 3.5 minutes from the time that things started to go wrong until you were back on the water. Did you have a chance to tell the crew in the back anything about what was actually going on and what your plans were?
They didn't know that we'd even landed on water until they opened the door and saw the river. All we were able to do was give the brace for impact command.
You've been through the experience and you know what to expect in a ditching situation now. Is there anything you'd add to the training that regular airline pilots get in order to better prepare for such an incident?
All the training we've ever had has been essentially out of a book. That really wasn't of any benefit at all to us. It's similar to landing on a runway, but it's not the same as landing on a runway, and it might be something that some actual simulator training might help.
Was there anything that surprised you about the experience? Was it what you were expecting if you think back to it theoretically, learning about ditching?
Well, I guess whenever we talked about ditching, we always said, yeah, right, like we're ever going to be able to survive that. And of course we did. So I never really expected that it would be something that, you know, was something you could successfully do. But of course I didn't really ever look into it.
So you've gained a lot of fame. If they were to make a movie about this incident, who would be the ideal person to have play you in the movie?
From my perspective, Brad Pitt.
Flat spins are considered unrecoverable. Aerobatic pilot Neil Spooner entered a flat spin, which is usually fatal. It was caught in dramatic detail with an onboard camera. He was one of the lucky pilots who lived to tell about it. But was it luck or skill? To find out, the Aviators UK correspondent caught up with him at his home airfield.
Neil's kindly joined us by his aircraft. So Neil, what first got you into flying?
It was my wife's fault. She bought me a trial lesson in 1988, and it all went steadily downhill from there with my private pilot's licence. And I always wanted to go commercial, which I eventually did. Why the nipper? I saw Barry Smith campaign a tipsy nipper many, many years ago. It must have been about 1986, and I have to say he put on a very, very good show with it. And I thought, well, if you can do that with sort of 1800 cc's of Volkswagen burning 3 gallons of petrol an hour, then really it's a very, very affordable way of doing aerobatics. And for my level of aerobatics, it really does everything. Fully inverted fuel systems, oil systems, so I can leave it upside down all day for as long as I feel happy on the straps.
You uploaded a video to YouTube of you and your aircraft doing 26 flat spins. Can you talk us through what happened?
Yeah, I have to say it caught me very much by surprise. I always thought that the flat spin was the province of more thoroughbred aircraft than the tipsy nipper. It's a very good forum, particularly in the aviation world, to offer insight into what can happen.
Can you take us through the video itself, please, Neil?
Of course. Watching the video, I have to say, I still have a little bit of trouble with, but initially a clearing turn, and this is the bit that I always hate, where throttle back and start to pitch up into the stall. The mistake I made was using full aileron to help initiate the stall from a fully stalled condition with quite an aggressive rudder input. I knew the spin had gone flat very, very quickly. Within half a turn I thought this just doesn't look right. The nose attitude isn't as low as it should be, and the rate of rotation is different, and applied normal spin recovery technique. Made absolutely no difference. The tail group felt like they were actually disconnected from the controls. There was absolutely no aerodynamic loading at all. Absolutely no effect. Some control loading on the ailerons themselves, and that was the only control surface I got any feedback on. So I thought that would probably be the key to getting me out, and by using in-turn aileron, this is a spin to the right, in-turn aileron, what you're effectively doing is the down-going aileron produces some drag, which helps oppose the yaw of the aircraft, and that helped, along with forward stick, help the nose go down, the aircraft to roll into a normal erect spin, from which it was simplicity itself to recover from. It's just instinct.
How did you feel?
At that stage, incredibly disorientated. You cannot imagine just how disorientated. I couldn't read the instruments. Initially, just staying strain level for a number of seconds was all I could really do. Once I'd got control of the aircraft back and a few of my sensors back, scanned for somewhere to land out and turned into wind and spotted the area to land, the fact that somebody had erected a barbed wire fence that was invisible to me was the fly in the ointment.
What did you learn from the experience?
Proper spin entry is one thing. It was a mishandled spin entry by using full aileron to initiate the spin, which in this case I didn't need to do because it's from a fully stalled state.
What would be the one piece of advice you would give someone?
Be very aware of the fact that their aircraft will not always do what they anticipate. On this occasion, because I was entering the spin from a slightly different control input set, I added 500 feet, which I always do to anything new when I'm practicing. That 500 foot saved my life because I can only estimate, because I couldn't read the instruments, I came out of the manoeuvre at around about 500 to 700 feet. And essentially good training. Good training, I think, is the way to go. If you are going to aerobat an aircraft, you need to know about these corners of the flight envelope, which really you never know when you're going to enter.
Aviators, for everyone who has ever gazed skywards.
For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv.
now for the first time on TV. The stories and reports of the people who fly and the aircraft they fly. And you are invited in an exciting, pulse-pumping new television series designed for everyone who has ever gazed skywards and dreamt of slipping the bonds of Earth. The Aviators.
This week on The Aviators, we take a look at charter aviation. We check out some of the newest and coolest in affordable helicopters. We get an inside look at the 2009 Cross Canada Century flight.
So everyone is so terrifically excited about this.
And we get to meet legendary airshow pilot Julie Clark.
I'm going to show you an engine that you'll probably never see again.
From the Boundary Bay Airport, this is The Aviators. Corporate and charter aviation are among the fastest growing segments of the aviation industry and will be drawing heavily from the pilot pool over the next decade. Chartrite Air Group is one company that's on the leading edge of this growing market. With over 25 corporate jets in their fleet, Chartrite has offices in Toronto, Vancouver, and Moscow. Chartrite's CEO, Adam Keller, spoke to us at Chartrite's Toronto headquarters.
Chartrite was started in 1987. Originally, it was a management company for a single private aircraft, but as the fleet grew and more people started to fly the charter machines, Chartrite became a commercial operation. Growing through the 1990s, more and more aircraft were added, and we got to our position where we are today with 25 airplanes. There are two sides to our business. The one side is for the owner of the aircraft. We will take care of his asset, ensure that it complies with all applicable regulations. We will make sure it's operated safely and that it's available for him when he needs it. When he is not using the aircraft, we'll put it into the charter marketplace and we'll put the aircraft out for rent basically to anyone who would need it.
Chartrite's fleet of corporate jets ranges from very light or entry-level jets to larger aircraft such as the Challenger 300.
The Challenger 300 is a new aircraft, so it's got all the latest amenities. It's a beautiful machine to ride on, and it's a very roomy cabin. They call it a super mid-size, and we have a lot of people moving from mid-size cabins to super mid-size.
The life of a corporate pilot is very different from that of an airline captain. Sarah Rapenda talks to Chief Pilot Wayne Shea from the flight deck of the Challenger.
What made you decide to become a corporate pilot instead of an airline pilot?
Corporate aviation for me, it was a sort of a natural segue from the ground job I did as a ground handler or ramp rat as we used to call ourselves. And I was introduced to a number of different corporate aviation divisions at that time. And it's just a natural progression for me to go into corporate as opposed to the airline.
The entry-level pilot time requirements for Chartrite is 1,000 hours. But for Adam and Wayne, this is just one of the many things they look for in a potential pilot.
Virtually all pilots can fly an aircraft. So when somebody comes in the door, what we're looking for is the ability to manage the aircraft.
As a corporate aviation flight department, you don't have the resources on the ground at every station you fly into that an airline would have. So, for instance, when Air Canada flies to St. John's, Newfoundland, they have a station in St. John's, Newfoundland with support with engineers and ground staff, etc. We fly to Newfoundland, we rely on a third-party handler to do our handling. So you've got to be thinking on your feet. Today's flight is a perfect example is the weather. Here in Toronto right now, we're experiencing the largest snowstorm we've had this winter. We'll have to go through the central de-ice facility, so we'll incur a few delays that we would normally have, say, on a nice clear summer day.
Private jets can be an efficient business tool, or they can be the supreme status symbol, seating anywhere from 6 in a Learjet to 36 passengers in a corporate-configured McDonnell Douglas MD-87. Who can afford this airborne luxury? According to Adam, Chartrite gets the usual suspects such as movie stars, professional athletes, and rock stars. Even groups of golfers who have pooled their money to head for their favorite golf course have booked with Chartrite. Regardless of who the client is, all these bookings start the same way.
So you would call into our customer service department, give them the details of the flight that you would like to go on. They will ask questions with regard to how many people, the size of aircraft that you would like. Once they have that information, they'll prepare a quote for you. And if that's an acceptable number, you'll get transferred into flight operations.
Generally, we receive a call from our operations department indicating that we have a flight, whether it's the next day or in some cases it can be as quick as 2 hours from now. And the first thing we do, of course, is start doing our homework by checking weather, checking the runway lengths and available resources at the particular airport we're flying into. And generally 2 hours prior to the flight, we come in, make sure our paperwork is in order, check the weather again, check the airport, the NOTAMs, etc. Do the walk around in the airplane. And once the airplane is on the ramp and completed our walk around, we have to make sure our catering's on board, fuel's on board, and any other sort of requests that our passengers may have.
Checking in for a charter flight couldn't be easier. This, says Adam, is the #1 benefit of flying with Chartrite.
Checking in is a 5-minute process as opposed to the airlines being sometimes 2 hours and more. Other benefits include a working environment, safety and security, and simply convenience.
The cost of convenience is not cheap. Charter bookings can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 an hour depending on the aircraft. Not the most economical option when compared to an airline. However, charter flights go where they want, when they want. This is something pilots appreciate as much as the clients.
What is your favorite part of being a corporate pilot?
I think the going to the destinations, it's unknown. We go to so many different destinations and there's no set schedule. So unlike a scheduled airline where you know well in advance what your schedule is and where you're going, for us it's a phone call a day or two ahead, in some cases 2 hours ahead, and we have no idea where we're going. An example would be getting a call at 6 o'clock in the morning, and by 6 o'clock that evening we're sitting in Nice, France, having dinner on the beach.
The charter market is extremely competitive, with 4,000 corporate jets available to the market in North America on any given day. Despite this, Adam does not see Chartrite's competition as their biggest challenge.
I think we have two primary challenges in operating this type of business. The first of which is finding the right staff who understand the service that we're in and are able to meet the demands of the client. And we've been very, very fortunate. We're just chock-a-block full of good people, and they're giving good service. The second challenge is understanding the service requirements of the client. They don't necessarily articulate that in a way that's easily understood.
When those clients are on board our aircraft, the camera is off and most people have a tendency to relax and be themselves. So the human side of these personalities come out when they're on our aircraft because they're out of the limelight, they get a chance to relax and they're in their own space. And we as professionals obviously give them that space.
Our single greatest success factor is our ability to understand what our clients want and to deliver them the service that they need.
That's why they use corporate airplanes.
One of the fastest growing segments of the amateur-built aircraft movement is the home-built helicopter segment. These aircraft represent fantastic value when compared to their factory counterparts. For between $30,000 and $125,000, you can build and learn to fly your own personal helicopter.
Helicopters can be an affordable way to get in the air. With their ability to hover and dart, they're far more maneuverable than their fixed-wing counterparts, and rotor-wing aircraft allow the pilot to see and go places few can imagine. While the range may be limited compared to a fixed-wing aircraft, vertical takeoff and landing allow these little flying machines to squeeze in and out of some tight quarters. You can buy these small helicopters either fully assembled or in kits that you assemble yourself. Either way, this segment of private aviation has one outstanding characteristic: they are very inexpensive to buy.
This model is a Mosquito. It was built by its owner in about 6 months at a cost of $31,000. This aircraft fits within the ultralight category, which means you don't need either a license or registration to fly it. Its 65 horsepower engine will keep it in the air for about 1 hour on 5 gallons worth of gas.
Being an ultralight, the Mosquito's speed and range are limited at only 80 miles per hour for the speed and 60 miles for the range. The idea with an ultralight helicopter like this is not to go far, but to enjoy the thrill of the flight. Going low and slow, the Mosquito allows you to buzz around an airfield while feeling the elements whip through the open cockpit. The Mosquito's modest windshield does provide some protection and could be considered luxurious when compared to other ultralights such as home-built gyroplanes. Home-built gyroplanes are popular experimental craft. On a gyroplane, the top rotor is unpowered. A rear-facing propeller provides thrust, resulting in lift and causing the top rotor to auto-rotate. This unique way of flying allows gyroplanes to do some dramatic touch-and-goes. Unfortunately, with both the Mosquito and most home-built gyros, there's no space for passengers. So while you may get to enjoy the Earth in a unique way, you do so alone. For those looking to enjoy helicopters outside the ultralight market, there are other home-builts that also accommodate passengers.
B.J. Schramm founded the home-built helicopter movement when he started Rotorway International in 1967. The company's latest offering, this slick E600 Talon, is sold in kit form and includes everything you need to get in the air, including the engine and the engine instruments. This particular helicopter will carry 2 people at 100 miles an hour while burning 8 gallons of fuel per hour. One of the things unique to Rotorway is not only do they sell aircraft kits, they'll also teach you how to fly your helicopter and how to maintain an E600 Talon.
While Rotorway is the oldest of the home-built helicopter kit companies, there is no shortage of up-and-coming kit builders.
Canadian Home Rotors offers this helicopter kit called a Safari. Al Rolton won Grand Champion Rotorcraft at AirVenture in 2008 with his machine. Al, tell us about some of the features that come from certified helicopters that are used in this home-built machine.
Well, certainly the most important thing would be the engine. It's a certified engine, whether it's a Lycoming or a Superior engine. This is also the 360, so 180 horsepower, so there's lots of extra power in there. It's shaft-driven, there's no belts to slippage, anything like that. It's very reliable, very safe, very easy to maintain and inspect, which is hugely important. Quick walk around and you can see everything. There's nothing hidden, nothing to be removed. We're all very happy with it so far.
Excellent. So let's take a tour of what we're looking at here. We've got the engine.
Yes, correct.
And then up above that?
Well, this is the clutch. Basically, as you spool up the engine, the blades will slowly engage. It's got a fan system that blows down all the air down through and cools off the engine. That's obviously the transmission sitting up top to everything solid. It's a very well-built rotor head system, very strong. It's handling anything we need it to do very, very nicely. Very nice.
The beauty of a home-built aircraft is that you can customize it in ways not possible with a factory aircraft. From custom interiors to chromed fuel tanks, no 2 Safaris look alike. Building your own helicopter can be a significant investment in time, however.
Now you won an award because you did a great job putting this helicopter together. What's it like to build a helicopter and how long does it take?
It was, I was a little under 3 years when I built it the first time. Some guys are able to build them in under a year. If you've built one before, it's much quicker. But it's not that overwhelming. It's just one piece at a time. Mine took a little longer because I got a few more bells and whistles on it than maybe someone else might put on. But most of them are just bling bling. They're still the basic helicopter when you put them side by side.
Now this helicopter has 2 seats, so how do you use it?
Strictly in a recreational standpoint. I fly with buddies, I fly with family members. We go to small airports around where I live and visit other people and other helicopter people, and it's just a lot of fun that way. I've got about 2 hours range, so I can get quite far if I need to on it. And average speed, it cruises between 70 and 80 miles an hour very comfortably. All day long you can do that. Very easy to control. I'm very happy with the performance of it.
The Safari, with its large front bubble, has fantastic visibility, allowing the pilot and passengers to see everything around them. Al gave us a closer look inside this bubble and the Safari's rugged controls.
So we can see the control stick, the cyclic stick, the collective, and the anti-torque. Do you want to explain how those work when you fly?
Okay. This is your cyclic, and this would be, I want to go forward, I push forward. I want to go back, I back. And to turn the helicopter, I just move the controls either way, right or left. If I want to go up or down, this is what changes the pitch length. As I pull up, it increases the pitch of the blades, and I go up. This is my throttle. As I give it more pitch, I have to give it more gas, just like a car. You want to go faster, you have to put in the gas. These are my anti-torque pedals. The only reason they're there is take away the torque that your main blade. As it goes one way, if those blades weren't there, your helicopter would continue to turn. So they put the tail rotor blades on, and it helps bring it around so you can control it. Basically like a rudder on an airplane, and what really makes a helicopter so maneuverable close to the ground.
That is fantastic. Now, if a viewer was interested in learning to fly a helicopter, how would they go about that?
Local airport. I personally took the training on the R-22. I find it's the closest performance-wise. Same engine, same horsepower, so that's my recommendation. It's a much smaller helicopter, so when you're in this, it's quite a surprise how much room you have when you're in this one. But it's by far the best one to take your training on, I found personally.
Well, thanks very much, Al, for showing us around your helicopter. We can't wait to see what it looks like flying now.
All right, very good. Thank you.
July 2009 marked the 100th anniversary of flight in Canada. To commemorate the event, a group of pilots attempted the largest North American transcontinental flight by civilian aircraft. Over 100 airplanes made up of over 50 different aircraft types departed the Boundary Bay Airport in Delta, British Columbia, bound for Baddeck, Nova Scotia, the birthplace of flight in Canada. The flight was led by celebrity pilot John Lovelace, known for his 10 years of hosting the Wings Over Canada TV series.
I'll tell you, it's really getting exciting. We really have a sense that everyone is so terrifically excited about this, and I just hope we can keep this up.
Well, I'm a bit of a new pilot, low time hours, and so there's a lot of unknowns and new experiences. Both my wife and I have worked real hard to be prepared from a knowledge standpoint as well as from the equipment on the aircraft. We just purchased this aircraft last fall, and so it's kind of an opportunity to really get to know it real well and share some exciting time with my new wife.
A team of 18 flight marshals and coordinators were drawn from both private and airline pilots as well as air traffic control.
Just relaying John's message here to Peter to get to everybody else to stay on the ground until the weather improves for the entire flight.
A ground support command center accompanied the flight, which required 3 drivers driving all night to keep up with the flight.
And so we're going to be sleeping in shifts, but the job's got to be done. We'll be there, crack of dawn.
Consisting of 8 legs and covering 8 provinces, the flight crossed the Rocky Mountains, the prairies, and the wilderness forests of northern Ontario before flying through the congested air traffic areas in the Toronto-Montreal corridor. Aircraft ranged from a Tiger Moth biplane to a modern jet-powered Dahati L-39 Albatross.
This aircraft was made in 1983 in Czechoslovakia, and it was delivered to the Romanian Air Force the same year. The Romanian Air Force flew this aircraft until 1989 when the Cold War ended. Following the Cold War, the airplane was basically parked for 12 years in some place in Romania. There's an organization in the US that made a business of finding these airplanes, overhauling them, repainting them, putting North American electronics into them, and selling them.
A true Canadian classic made an appearance during the flight, the Nordian Norseman.
I think the airplane first flew November 1935. This is a 1944 model, virtually the same. There was very few modifications to this airplane right from the start. It was built for the Canadian bush pilots. They had an input into it. It was designed in Canada, right in offices in Montreal. And it was also designed for the bush back then, which was aviation. But it was the high technology of the day. Thing is with this airplane too, the aircraft is actually a fabric. Okay? There's a little bit of metal under the engine here and up to about here. The rest is all fabric covered. The wing spar, main strength of the wing is wood.
Most of the flight was conducted under visual flight rules, or VFR, at altitudes of 8,000 feet and below. The trip was not always smooth flying.
No, I don't. I'm not liking this at all. But we'll have a look, but I think we're going to have to go under.
Low visibility in Sault Ste. Marie and a massive weather front covering the entire eastern seaboard, coupled with risks of a fuel shortage, threatened to derail the flight halfway through.
Yeah, how come?
We ran out of fuel in the truck, so the only thing we had left to do was the pumps.
You ran out of fuel in a truck.
The pumps are the only thing that's available, so
yeah,
let's get a SMS message out to the pilots telling them to get over to the pumps.
As well, we are
Prior to this, the largest formation flight of civilian aircraft recorded was 35 at Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Organizers of the Cross Canada flight calculate this record was broken on each of the 8 flight legs, with anywhere from 60 to 90 planes being airborne at the same time.
We've got about 60 airplanes in the air between there and here right now, and we just seem to be skirting this.
We have a small flying club, and at best we'll get 20 or 30 guys in on a Tuesday night. But when you get 100 to 200 pilots together in one vicinity, it's crazy.
The flight concluded safely on Canada's east coast with a final ceremony at the Bedeck estate of telephone inventor Alexander Graham Bell and the site of the first flight in Canada in 1909.
The kids had a great time. Canada's a phenomenal country, and thanks to Mr. Bell and his colleagues for getting us going.
In all, 270,000 nautical miles were flown by the 108 aircraft that participated in at least a portion of the flight. Despite a handful of breakdowns, not a single scratch was put on any of the aircraft. The group is planning their next journey, another 100 aircraft flight, this time into Canada's Yukon territory.
So as long as people have dreamed of flying, they've dreamed of doing aerobatics in the air just like the birds. And we're here with Julie Clark today, who's one of those people who've been lucky enough to make a name for herself doing aerobatics in North America. Hi, Julie. Before we talk about this beautiful T-34, I'd like to ask you, but you were one of the first people that was one of the ladies to operate in the cockpit of a commercial aircraft. Tell us a bit about how that happened.
Back in the mid-70s, nobody really wanted to break that mold and hire their first woman. And even though I was very qualified, I'd been flying at that time more than 9 years, had over 3,000 hours, 2 jet type ratings. Nobody wanted to hire their first woman for their airlines. So I finally was hired in 1976.
So now you go and you spend 9 years getting qualified to operate a commercial aircraft with passengers on it, and you get a job doing that, but that's not enough. You decide you want to do air shows. How did you get into the air show business?
Well, before I became an airline pilot, I actually flew T-34s in the Navy as a civilian flight instructor. And so I did that for a year and a half on a contract with the U.S. Navy in T-34s. And then right after I got on with the airlines, I got involved in competition, aerobatics in a pit special. And just the hankering of, I bought this airplane on a surplus bid in 1976. And I kind of just put it together, but I never really wanted to be an airshow pilot. It really wasn't my burning desire. I wanted to be an airline captain.
The story of this aircraft and how it came to be your aircraft is quite a story. You mentioned you bought it at auction, but there's much more to the story than just that.
Well, I bought it at an auction up in Alaska, sight unseen. And just the whole story of bringing it home from Alaska, telling my husband I had done this, and then I ended up restoring the airplane, which almost became like an obsession. And it took me 4.5 years to restore the airplane, did all my own work, and caused a divorce. So I can't say that was a good thing, but that's been years ago. So I endorse 21 great aviation companies besides being sponsored by Chevron. And one of them is my engine, and the top of the line Eagle engines out of Redding, California is the Golden Eagle series Turbo Stratus. So I'm going to show you an engine that you'll probably never see again. It's actually gold plated.
I'm going to give these people that are watching TV a chance to see it right here.
Here we
Look
go.
at that.
Yeah.
So how many horsepower is this engine?
Well, it's rated for 285, but this is actually a polished, imported, blueprinted engine, which they don't usually do in airplanes, so it's rated for about 310. So it's still really kind of underpowered because I also have to carry 1 full tank of gas because the fuel is not baffled, and the minute you go vertical for a certain amount of time, the minute your hammerhead come back down, that's when the engine quits. To avoid that, you have to have full fuel in one tank.
Full tank of gas keeps it pressurized to keep it running. So you're switching tanks during your flight as well?
No, I just run it off left tank, but if I have to go up and they say, you're going to fly 20 miles to your air show site, well then I got a plan to fly it off the other tank and then fly on the full tank once I get to the air show site, like over water and things like that.
Now there's some guys that I know they're a little bit bigger than you that fly this airplane. They call it a two-handed airplane. It's a fairly heavy airplane to do aerobatics in.
It's heavy-handed. It's not light at all. I have a T-28. That thing just is so light on the controls. This thing is a dog.
Really?
I mean, it's a nice dog. Sorry.
It's a beautiful looking
dog.
But
it's just very heavy-handed on the controls. That's the only thing about it that's kind of negative. ICAS, the International Council of Air Shows, which is the air show authority, they've been saying that air show audiences are actually up this year from last year, like by 12%. That's huge. That's saying a whole lot. And it's still good family entertainment. It doesn't cost a real arm and a leg. And kids love airplanes. We need to keep the kids. They are, like Chevron says, we have to introduce them to fuel now because they're our drivers of tomorrow. These are our pilots of tomorrow. And if they come to an air show, it's because they love airplanes and they are our future. And we need to keep that going. If I can inspire any people, one child, one show every weekend, I feel like I've continued to help further our cause in keeping aviation alive and well.
The Aviators, for everyone who has ever gazed skywards.
For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv. The Aviators was made possible by
the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. America is even more beautiful from the air. Discover it yourself. Let's go flying. Join us at aopa.org.
Xeon Flight Systems, makers of the PCAS MRX and XRX. Fly safer. Xeon Portable Collision Avoidance Systems.
Be part of the most passionate community of aviation enthusiasts. Learn more at eaa.org/aviators or find us on Facebook at EAA-HQ.
When the unexpected happens, the Lifesaver provides 1 hour of emergency attitude reference, giving you the time you need to land safely. In a mission's darkest moment, trust Mid-Continent Instruments.
Now for the first time on TV, the stories and reports of the people who fly and the aircraft they fly. And you are invited in an exciting, pulse-pumping new television series designed for everyone who has ever gazed skywards and dreamt of slipping the bonds of Earth. The Aviators.
This week on The Aviators, we take a look at the Russian MiG-15. We explore the legacy and influence of the Cessna brand. We take a look at float training in the winter on Canada's west coast. We talk to legendary aerobatic pilot Patty Wagstaff. And we go inside a simulator to learn how to land an airliner. From the Boundary Bay Airport, this is The Aviators.
I'm Jeff Lewis, and I'm the pilot on the MiG-15.
The Aviators staff correspondent Jeff Lewis, codenamed Biscuit, has a passion for aviation. Normally on The Aviators, Jeff is a field correspondent, but on today's show, he is the subject of the segment. We caught up with him just before one of his airshow performances in the legendary MiG-15.
Well, I've been flying for a long time. My background is I'm a professional pilot captain. To fly an aircraft like this, you do require a couple thousand hours and some jet experience. Either professionally or on corporate jets is a good background for it, and as well as flying other aircraft like our L-29 Delphin. That sets you up with the skill set required to fly this type of high-performance swept-wing jet. This is a neat airplane. The MiG-15 was the most widely produced jet aircraft in history. Over 18,000 examples that were built, mostly by the Russians, but also under license by the Polish, the Czech, and the Chinese. This particular MiG-15 is manufactured in 1954 in Russia, and the aircraft was operated by the Soviet Air Force from 1954 to 1968. After flying the L-29, we started thinking, oh, that would be kind of a neat airplane. I think a lot of people were asking us, so is that a MiG, is that a MiG? And we didn't have a MiG at that time, so we started looking around, and this aircraft caught our attention. And once we saw it, and obviously then had the opportunity to fly it, we had to have one. So back when the aircraft was in service, the instructor sat in the back. So actually, if you're sitting in the back and you know what you're doing, you can override all the instrumentation in the front and give the guy a run for his money who's flying the aircraft. But overall, you know, the airplane, if you respect it, it's a beautiful aircraft to fly. It's very responsive, but it will bite you, and unless you know what you're doing, you can end up in some trouble. But, you know, hey, 1947 technology, what do you expect for a first time? The MiG-15 was the most widely produced jet aircraft in history. 18,000 examples were produced. However, there's not very many of them flying anymore. I would hazard a guess that there's probably in the range of 20 aircraft actually flying in active flying condition today. As a two-seater, I would say that's less than a dozen. This is a rare aircraft with the second seat. She's a thirsty bird. The MiG-15, you're looking at 460 gallons an hour. The aircraft holds 462 gallons in 1 hour. That's it. And during an airshow routine, you know, we go through 500 liters pretty quickly, and that's in a 10-minute, 12-minute routine. She drinks the gas. Even at ground idle, we are in the 100-gallon-an-hour type range. So it's a thirsty bird, and my carbon footprint's larger than Texas, but you know what? It's a lot of fun.
In 1911, a small-town Kansas farmer named Clyde Cessna built his own airplane. Little did he know that this would lead to the birth of the most prolific aircraft manufacturing brand of all time, with total production and delivery exceeding 190,000. Cessna originally partnered with Lloyd C. Stearman, future president of Lockheed Martin, and Walter Beech, co-founder of Beech Aircraft. The three founded Travel Air and focused on building biplanes. It wouldn't be until 1924 that Cessna Aircraft was founded. The company's goal was to focus on single-engine monoplanes. It would be this very style of aircraft that the Cessna brand would become synonymous with, along with general aviation as a whole. I caught up with Cessna's Angela Baldwin at AirVenture in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Did Clyde Cessna have any idea that the Cessna of back then would become the Cessna of today?
No, and we think he'd be quite proud of what we've been able to accomplish. I mean, we've got the fastest business jet in the world, and yet we're still teaching the world to fly with a new trainer this year. So we're trying to cover every aspect of the business and have a solution for everyone who wants to fly.
While primarily a single-engine aircraft company, Cessna has a vast product line ranging from the single-engine 172 to the large twin-engine Citation 10, the fastest business jet in the world.
We like to think that our product line is, appealing to anybody who has a need to fly. In December of 2007, Cessna bought Columbia Aircraft Manufacturing, so now we've got a low-wing all-composite airplane that are now part of the Cessna family. We also have the Caravan, which is known as the SUV of the skies. It'll do anything. We have the Cessna Skycatcher that I mentioned, which is really, we see to be the next generation of pilot training. It's the new two-seater, and we see that being a real game changer for training. We also have the 172, the 150. Typically, most people have learned to fly in either one of those products.
When I tell people who are non-aviators the kind of airplane I fly, if you give them a model number, they don't get it. But if you say, I fly a Cessna, they know. How did Cessna end up being such a powerful brand name?
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we did teach the world to fly. We like to say that we taught the world to fly. More people have learned to fly in a Cessna than any other airplane. We have a very large pilot center network, over 300 places in the United States where you can learn to get your pilot's license. And so when you get people in the family, you develop a relationship with them, they have a loyalty about them, and so we just like to think that we're every band's company.
Arguably, the most recognizable of all Cessnas is the 172. If a pilot hasn't flown a 172 themselves, they're almost guaranteed to know someone who has. This has helped to make this Cessna model the best-selling aircraft ever.
The Cessna 172 has been around since the early 50s, and we've sold more of those than any other product that we've made. And, I think that's probably what we've been known for, is the Cessna 172, and we're quite proud of that airplane.
Early in the 1970s, Cessna expanded their product offerings to include the Citation business jet line. Since then, they've delivered more than 5,700 Citations, more than any other business jet manufacturer in the world. This is an incredible cockpit, and we're in a Cessna.
Absolutely. You're in the Citation Mustang, which has been an incredible success for us in the very light and entry-level business jet market for us. We've recently delivered over 200 of those in the short time it's been in the market. And then we have everything from the Citation Mustang to the Citation 10, which is the fastest business jet in the world.
And they all bear that Cessna brand name, but they're not your granddaddy's Cessna. They're not the 172. The Mustang is far removed from the 172, but they're both amazing planes. What's in store for the future with Cessna?
What's new for the future, we don't know. Is it alternate fuels? Is it new avionics? Is it different engines? Is it a bigger cabin? We don't know, but we're constantly looking at everything, and we just want to make sure that whatever our customers want, we can provide.
So whatever the future holds for Cessna in terms of designs and technology, the Aviators will be there to report it. Stay tuned. The 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver drew the attention of the world to beautiful British Columbia. BC's snow-capped mountains, river valleys, breathtaking coastlines, and sheltered emerald lakes make the West Coast region an outdoor wonderland. It's this unique mix of landscapes that makes BC an ideal place to learn to fly float planes. Just about every challenge and scenario that a float pilot is likely to encounter is all right here within a 1-hour flight of Vancouver. On a single training flight, the new pilot can experience flying in mountain passes, compensating for tidal currents, saltwater operations, dealing with river currents, and high-altitude takeoffs and landings. But the beauty of training in BC is that the pilot can come out here and train in the dead of winter, because float flying in Vancouver is a year-round love affair. To find out more, the Aviators visited Pacific Rim Aviation Academy on a not-so-chilly day in March.
So right now, here it is, middle of March, and we got a high-pressure system. So, take us through it.
It's a beautiful, cold, crisp day to go flying, but not too cold. Obviously, the water's not frozen, so we can still go fly in our seaplane here. One of the few places in Canada is the BC West Coast we can fly year-round. Sometimes the winter weather can be challenging, but that's good to expose your students to some challenging weather.
So you guys got people coming from all over the world to come here. I understand you got somebody next week from where?
We've got someone coming in from Holland, and that's quite common. The Europeans love coming to Canada. We're kind of known as the float plane destination. And what a better place to get your float ready than right here in beautiful British Columbia.
Pacific Rim Aviation Academy is located right off the apron at Pitt Meadows Regional Airport in the Fraser Valley of BC. We spoke with the owner of Pacific Rim, Chris Georges, about the airport.
Pitt Meadows Airport is one of 5 airports in the lower mainland of British Columbia, about 40 kilometers from downtown Vancouver and 40 kilometers from Abbotsford International Airport. Pitt Meadows is gifted by virtue of its location because we have 3 major runways, and they are associated with the Fraser River, which gives us an all-purpose airport with float plane operation capability.
Chris, a lifetime pilot, is also a former high school teacher. The two passions led Chris to open Pacific Rim Aviation Academy as a second career after Chris retired from teaching. In just 10 short years, Pacific Rim has had tremendous growth and today is one of the leading flight schools in Western Canada. Uniquely situated on the banks of the Fraser River, Pacific Rim is excellently positioned for float training, and the winter months, according to Chris, are as good a time as any to learn to fly.
Contrary to what a lot of people think, winter flying is absolutely the best time of the year to go flying. Number one, there usually is a high pressure area associated with the winter time. It's a very dry atmospheric type of condition, and the density of the atmosphere allows the airplane to perform really, really well.
So in Ontario right now, it's middle of March, lakes are frozen. I know that for a fact. Usually they open up around the first week, second week of April.
But here in British Columbia year-round, we have Pitt Lake, Stave Lake, Alouette Lake, Harrison Lake, the Fraser River, and the whole Pacific Ocean to use as our training area.
So you use this airplane on the salt chuck?
Yeah, we could take it out into the Gulf Islands in the open ocean, do some training there. Most of the initial training's here at the local lakes and rivers. They get some experience in current, some experience on the glassy water at the lakes. And during the more advanced training, we take them out to some bigger water out in the open ocean.
British Columbia has 1,000 miles of protected coastline, has some of the most beautiful lakes in Canada, and has 10,000 miles of navigatable rivers. A float plane makes all of this accessible with a virtual runway everywhere. This freedom brings with it some unique challenges as planes are maneuvered outside of sterile airport conditions.
So basically, when you come out to British Columbia, you have more than just freshwater training. I mean, you've got tidal, you've got currents.
That's right.
And of course, you've got saltwater operations. Now tell me about saltwater operations.
Well, the thing about saltwater operations, the water is still the same, so the landing and taking off is similar, but now you're right, you have to look at current charts, tide charts, and things change a lot in the ocean. You may go to a beach that was there one day for you, and then you come back at high tide and the beach is no longer there.
The ocean isn't the only place spot tides can become an issue. On many of BC's saltwater river deltas, float plane pilots can run into trouble when tides and currents meet.
Everybody thinks the river's always flowing towards the ocean, but sometimes when the tide's rising, the current will flow the other way, and some people get into trouble and go to the dock and go right past it because the current's going the opposite direction. And then another thing you just brought up, when the wind and current are both at opposites, your plane wants to weathercock, but the current wants to drag you away from the dock. So it can be some tricky situations, especially when you got a $1 million caravan in front of you and a $500,000 turbo beaver behind you to get between the two.
So somebody is coming in from, let's say they're watching this and they're sitting in Tennessee and they decide to come up here. Is there a nice place to stay? What do they do when they're not flying? Is there a pub?
Oh, the nice thing about the float plane, we get to fly to the pubs. There's a dock just downriver here called the Gilnutter Pub. Well, you've been to the Fort Pub with me. We dock there all the time. We don't drink, of course, but
I drink coffee.
Yeah, there's great food at the pubs, and on the Gulf Islands, beautiful, beautiful resorts to go to, and they're happy to see you. And that's the nice thing about the float plane. I make it my meal ticket. I make my students buy lunch for me. So.
So if you're thinking about learning how to fly floats, there's no better place than to come right out here in the West Coast and fly with Pacific Rim Aviation and Luke Howard. Luke, it's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Sean.
Aerobatics is the practice of flying maneuvers involving aircraft attitudes that are not used in normal flight. It's taught to all military pilots as a way to develop combat flying skills. In general aviation, aerobatics are taught to pilots who want to learn how to push the flying envelope in ways that will make them better pilots. Aerobatic aircraft fall into two categories. At the basic level, aerobatic-capable aircraft, such as some Cessnas, can be dual-purpose, equipped to carry passengers and luggage, as well as being capable of performing basic aerobatic maneuvers. The more advanced specialist designs aim for the ultimate in aerobatic performance. This comes at the expense of general-purpose use such as touring, or ease of non-aerobatic handling such as landing. The Extra 200 and 300 design is a bulletproof aircraft in the specialist design group. Patty Wagstaff is one of the foremost aerobatic pilots in the world, and she uses the Extra aircraft. One of her earlier Extra aircraft designs is in the Smithsonian. The Aviators caught up with her during a timeout in one of her air shows at Sun and Fun in Florida. She has a brand new Extra design with a new high-performance engine.
This is a 300S, and it was built for me. It's actually a production airplane, but this one is certified to plus or minus 10 Gs. But this one is experimental. Okay. It was built in Germany. It's got a Lycoming engine. It's got an IO 580 Thunderbolt engine, which is very rare. They've only built two of this specific engine. It's got high compression pistons and a lot of other tricky stuff in it, so it puts out a lot of power. It's got a German MT propeller, and the whole plane is made of composites, made of Kevlar, carbon fiber, fiberglass, with a steel tube frame, which gives you a lot of structural integrity, and it's like a roll cage. And then it has a one-piece wing with two box bars for the full span, so it's just super, super stout.
Can you talk a bit about what it's like training for and participating in an air show season?
It's a lot of training. It's a lot of work to getting ready for it. Every year it's the same thing. You park your plane in November and you take it apart, you do a really big annual on it, and inspection and replace the engine if you need to, that kind of thing. And you have to work your way up to pulling all these Gs, because I pull 10 Gs in my flight and about 7-8 Gs negative, and you got to work your way up to it. And it takes a couple of months every year to get back into the swing of really feeling good while you're doing it.
Most aerobatic maneuvers involve rotation of the aircraft about its longitudinal or roll axis, or lateral or pitch axis. Maneuvers are often combined to form a complete aerobatic sequence for entertainment or competition. Aerobatic flying requires a broader set of piloting skills and exposes the aircraft to greater structural stress than normal flight.
So minus 8 Gs, there's a lot of force trying to throw you out of the cockpit. Well, how do you look after staying inside and keeping your feet on those pedals?
We've got hooker harnesses that we all use, and we have ratchets on either side to tighten us in there. You really need to be tight. I feel like I'm a professional athlete, and I don't know that everybody sees it that way because we're in a machine, but I think if you look at NASCAR drivers or aerobatic pilots, you have to be an athlete to have the stamina to do it and to be as good as you want to be.
Fantastic. Now, I've also read about your exposure at Paris and Farnborough demonstrating a different kind of aircraft that somebody who is a future Thunderbird might be learning to fly in today.
Absolutely. All the Air Force pilots now that are in primary flight training fly the Texan 2 or the T-6A, and that's what the Air Force flies. In the Navy, a lot of them fly that as well. I've been the demo pilot for Raytheon, now back to Hawker Beechcraft name, for about 10 years as well. It's very different than doing this because you're demonstrating that airplane for sales. So you want to show off that airplane in a certain environment, and they're looking for different things that what you might look for in this. This year, you're just looking to be entertained and see the plane tumbling across the sky kind of thing. And that you're demonstrating that the airplane has speed, maneuverability, and can do the mission that they're trying to sell it for.
From the early days of flying, when barnstormers pushed their aircraft to entertain onlookers, aerobatics have pushed the advancement of both flying and technical skills. Today, 100 years later, at air shows across North America, millions of people are still drawn to the roar of the engines and the spectacle of airplanes dancing 1,000 feet in the air.
I'm Jeff Lewis, and I'm a staff correspondent with the Aviators. When I'm not on the Aviators, I'm a professional airline captain. Here we are in the Embraer 190 simulator, one of the most advanced airliners in the world today. This simulator operates exactly like the aircraft. The software that this simulator runs on is identical to the software in the aircraft. In the airline world, we may fly our entire careers without ever having an emergency or an incident. However, we train every 8 months in these simulators for that one day that we'll never forget. From hydraulic pump failures, to engine fires, to a bird strike that will take out both engines and we have to ditch into the Hudson just like Sully did, we train for these once-in-a-lifetime incidents or emergencies. We're in the simulator here. We're at about 10 miles final for a runway. I'm going to show you how to land an airliner. In the airline world, we usually have 2 pilots as a crew. However, today, for the demonstration purposes, I'm just going to show you the basics on how to land an airliner. So right now, we're at about 10 miles final for a runway. The autopilot, nicknamed George, is flying, but we're going to disconnect the autopilot and disconnect the auto throttles. An airliner is just like any other airplane. Flying is the same as in a Cessna 150 or any light twin. We have our yoke here, our thrust levers here, which control the engine power, our landing gear, and our flaps, and that's all we're going to need to ensure a safe landing. As we're coming up at about 8 miles final, I'm going to start a speed reduction. In order to land the aircraft safely on the runway, we have to ensure that the aircraft is at its landing speed when we touch down. While we're on the approach, I'll show you some basics on the Embraer. This is one of the most advanced glass cockpit aircraft flying today. We have our primary flight display, our multi-function display, and our map and systems display here. On our primary flight display, we have our airspeed on the left, our ADI, or attitude directional indicator, in the middle, and our altitude is on the right. There's lots of other information displayed on these screens. However, in order to land the aircraft, we just need the basics. Speed, heading, attitude, and altitude will get us to the ground safely. As we're decelerating here through 190 knots, flap 1 has been selected. I'm going to now select flap 2, and we're coming up at about 6 miles final. Flap 2 will enable us to further continue our deceleration to our safe landing speed. And as we come up here at about 5 miles, I'm going to select the landing gear down. The landing gear on the airliner takes a long time to come down, as much as about 15 seconds on this aircraft. Now that the wheels are down, I'm going to select the next flap setting and dial our speed back to the approach speed for the aircraft weight and the aircraft configuration. The aircraft is now decelerating through 160 knots. We're on short final. I'll select the landing flap, verify our landing gear is down, ensure that the flight directors are off, and now all I have to do now is land the aircraft. This is all now being manually flown. Our speed is 141 knots. That is set for our aircraft weight and programmed into the system prior to the descent. At this point, we always make sure the landing gear is down and the aircraft is configured. That will ensure that the aircraft is on a stabilized approach. As we come up on our final approach speed, our landing flap of 5 is selected, and again, I verify the landing gear is down. So we come up at the mile final. I ensure that the speed is on our approach speed and that we're on our 3-degree slope. We're doing this visually today, but this is the picture that we should be looking at when we're short final. We've been cleared to land, the aircraft is on speed, and it is a stable approach configuration. We're aiming for a touchdown point 1,500 feet down the runway, and you can see it on any runway by where all the rubber marks are. The 1,000-foot marker is labeled by the thick white lines. We crossed the runway threshold, otherwise known as the piano keys. We're at 50 feet, and I start the flare. The thrust levers are brought to flight idle, and we just put the aircraft very gently down on the runway. We've touched down. I select full reverse thrust and maximum wheel brakes. That ensures a safe stop on the available runway. As we come through 70 knots, I select the thrust levers out of reverse into idle, We can now come to a stop, and the parking brake is set. That is how you land an airliner.
The Aviators, for everyone who has ever gazed skywards.
For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv.
Now, for the first time on TV, the stories and reports of the people who fly and the aircraft they fly. And you are invited in an exciting, pulse-pumping new television series designed for everyone who has ever gazed skywards and dreamt of slipping the bonds of Earth. The Aviators.
This week on The Aviators, we're in Lakeland, Florida, where we take a look at some of the coolest aircraft at the Sun and Fun Fly-In. We check out an airplane built entirely by children.
We've had individuals from the industry come and coach them each individual area.
We dive in with the amphibs at Splash In.
It's incredibly exciting.
And much, much more. From the Boundary Bay Airport, this is The Aviators.
Welcome to Sun and Fun 2010. Curtis and I are here in Lakeland, Florida, and we are about to partake in spring break for pilots.
Sun and Fun began a number of years ago, hosted by the EAA as a spring fly-in. Today it is operated by its own independent group of directors, and it's the premier destination for pilots and aviation enthusiasts alike to mark the beginning of the aviation season. What are we going to see here this week?
Well, Sun and Fun really is a melting pot of aviation. You have military aircraft, home-built float planes, ultralights, and the newest and coolest in light sports.
Whether you're a pilot or not, this is the place to be to see the latest and greatest in aviation technology, air shows, and all of the latest aircraft that are on display up close.
Each year during Florida's Sun and Fun Fly-In, the Lakeland Linder Regional Airport becomes the busiest airport in the world with over 40,000 aircraft movements. The event features a colossal aviation trade show with more than 500 commercial exhibitors showcasing the newest products in the industry. From million-dollar aircraft to aviation art and avionics, vendors have something for everyone. But if you're not interested in buying something, you can take out your notepad and learn something. The education corridor is filled with more than 400 hands-on workshops and forums, all taking place during the 6-day event known around the world as Sun and Fun. This all happens to the backdrop of a daily air show. The Aviators film crew descended from Oshkosh, Vancouver, and Toronto to film the event. Led by veteran producer John Lovelace and executive producer Anthony Nally, 12 camera and production personnel documented the event.
One of the great things about coming to a place like Sun and Fun is your ability to wander around and discover very unique aircraft. This home-built aircraft was created a number of years ago, and it says here it's flown about 100 hours. It's called a Sunshine Clipper. You can see that this aircraft is an amphibian. The guy's got his fishing boat set right here, a set of wings, a set of wheels so he can take off from his favorite airport, and instead of having to drive to his favorite fishing spot, he can actually fly in and be the first one on the lake in the morning. He's got some tackle boxes here, a space to store some fishing rods, a comfortable seat, some engine gauges, everything a fella would need to go have a day of fishing.
This is a Cessna 206 on steroids. It's a soloid conversion package with 417 horsepower Rolls-Royce engine, 550 nautical mile range, 185 knots cruise speed, and it is only 70 decibels when in the cockpit.
So a Cessna 206 with a turbine is an extremely appealing aircraft. At Sun and Fun here, there's something to appeal to every taste and pocketbook. At the top end of the spectrum is this. This is a Beechcraft Premier personal jet. It's certified to be flown with a single pilot. It has 2 Williams turbofan engines. A typical mission for this aircraft would allow the pilot and 4 passengers to make their way from Boston down to Lakeland, Florida in about 2 hours at 41,000 feet. This is truly a way to travel in style.
One of the wonderful things about being at a show like Sun and Fun is the wide variety of aircraft available for you to see. You've got Stinsons, Cistabrias, Super Cubs, Cherokees, all ready for you to get up close and personal with. When National Geographic wanted the perfect aircraft to take their pictures with, they turned to Lockwood, and this is what they came up with. Now you can buy the same aircraft.
The AirCam is a unique twin-engine aircraft. Sold in a complete do-it-yourself kit or as a partially constructed airframe, the AirCam is manufactured by Lockwood Aircraft. Already known for their single-engine drifter design, Lockwood founder Phil Lockwood was asked by National Geographic to take pictures of the South African rainforest. According to Lockwood President George Weber, it was safety concerns on this mission that led Phil to the AirCam design.
Phil designed it with two engines because when he went there to do an interview to fly with the drifter, he asked National Geographic how long it would take if something happened to get out of the rainforest. And they said 12 days if you're healthy. So he decided that he would come back. National Geographic said, tell us what you want. He said, I want another engine for safety reasons. So they said, well, okay, design it. And 6 months later, the AirCam was born.
The AirCam's design puts the pilot 4 feet in front of the wing. With no obstructions, you get a view that is unlike any other aircraft. The aircraft is also extremely economical, burning only 3 gallons of fuel per hour at a cruising speed of 60 miles per hour. On top of this, the aircraft runs on premium auto fuel instead of avgas. According to George, this is just one of the many reasons pilots should be interested in the AirCam.
What are the perks of this aircraft that makes me want to go out and buy it?
It's like riding a Harley. You know, you can go low, slow, look for gators. You know, we have people that do whale watching with them. We have people that use them for photography. It's stable. The airplane has a huge wing area. It has a big tail. Trim it, and you can fly hands off. And you've got out front 270 degrees of nothing. It's just a great airplane to take pictures out of the front.
Building an AirCam can take anywhere from 800 to 1,800 hours, and the kit comes with everything but the instruments and paint. The payoff to the time investment is the unique experience the AirCam offers.
Here in Florida, we have a lot of orange groves, so we have the orange blossom smell that you can go and look and see the flowers on the trees. We have a caladium farm that's really close to Sebring, and when we take demo rides, we take the people down over the caladium farm, look at the different colors and take pictures. It's just a real unique experience flying the AirCam.
Coming up on our Sun and Fun special, we talk to Miracle on the Hudson hero First Officer Jeff Skiles. And later, float planes take center stage as we check out Splashing.
Welcome back to the Sun and Fun special. Thousands of pilots attend Sun and Fun for different reasons. For the large aviation community in Florida, it's a place to gather and celebrate the beginning of a new flying season. For people from the northern climates and our Canadian friends, it's a great cross-country to get away from the last of the winter weather. And it's a very easy destination for the thousands of aircraft that are based along the eastern seaboard in North America.
Around every corner you can find a new story. People are willing to talk about their airplanes and to share their experiences, and we're all united by the general love of aviation.
Since Sun and Fun has continued to grow, all the big names in aviation are here. There's a chance to hear Jeff Skiles talk about his experiences landing on the Hudson. Burt Rutan and other major attractions are available to see at Sun and Fun.
And you don't have to be a pilot. You can come here not knowing anything about aviation except knowing that you have a love for it, and there's something here for you.
Making daily appearances at Sun and Fun are the U.S. Air Force Thunderbird demonstration team. The Thunderbirds perform formation flying and individual aerobatic maneuvers in their F-16 Fighting Falcons. The F-16s are fitted with Pratt & Whitney turbofan engines capable of propelling the Fighting Falcon to 2 times the speed of sound. All airshow demos gratefully are flown at subsonic speeds.
This Lopresti Fury is a Ferrari with wings. It's got 200 horsepower, red lines at 270, will cruise at 225, and it is anything a guy or girl could want. It'll take you to your business meeting. It'll even do a couple of barrel rolls on the way back. It even has a place to dock your iPod.
This is the kind of airplane that really gets my blood pumping. A biplane with a radial engine. It just doesn't get any better than that. This aircraft is a Waco YMF. They were first built by the Waco Aircraft Company in Troy, Ohio in the late 1930s. And while this looks like an immaculate restoration, this is actually a brand new factory-built aircraft made in 2010. The Waco Classic Aircraft Corporation started producing Waco YMFs again in about 1985. Since that time, they've made more than 125 copies of this classic, iconic design. This current aircraft, the D model, which became available in 2010, incorporates a bunch of new features, including a fuel-injected engine with a brand new propeller and a glass cockpit.
Now, I fly Super Cub regularly, 150 horsepower, straight wheels, landed on a grass strip, really nice airplane. But this gorgeous piece of machinery, she takes Super Cub to an entire new level. 315 horsepower, about 130 to 140 knots airspeed, and situated very nicely on a gorgeous new pair of amphibious whipline floats.
Sun 'n Fun provides us with a great opportunity to show you some extremely unique aircraft. The Sikorsky Corporation is widely known today as a premier maker of helicopters. In the early part of the 20th century, they also made some amphibious aircraft. This is a Sikorsky S-39. It's the only remaining example of this type in the world. You can see that the control surfaces, the wings and the tail are covered in fabric. The fuselage itself is made out of aluminum. It's powered with a 450 horsepower Pratt & Whitney Wasp engine, the same type that's used in the Canadian Beaver. There's some very unique design attributes to this aircraft. One of the things to take note of is the tail wheel. The tail wheel has a solid hubcap. The idea is that when the aircraft's operating on the water, that's how it actually steers. That's the water rudder. So this aircraft is fully amphibious, with the sponsons and the hydraulic cylinders on the gear to raise the gear up out of the water. And you can see these intricately constructed leather boots that are designed to minimize the amount of water that makes its way into the fuselage. And the hydraulic lines lead down to the cylinders, which are actually used to extend the landing gear when you want to land on a runway.
Home builds are always a big part of Sun 'n Fun. There's a hands-on educational workshop on site, and there's always tons of home-built aircraft on display. And anyone with proper supervision can get involved in a home-built project, as we discovered with an airplane on display built entirely by children.
Well, this is built by the Aviation Explorers in Birmingham, Alabama. Back in May, the Aviation Explorers in Birmingham, Alabama started working on different projects and coordinating. By June, they had acquired this Kit Fox model. We've got about 15 kids involved in the program right now, and they've been working on it from the ground up. They have welded everything. They have done the fabric covering. We've had individuals from the industry come and coach them each individual area.
Building this Kit Fox 3 required an incredible amount of teamwork. As Sarah found out, attaching the wings was particularly difficult.
What was the hardest part of this project?
The hardest part was trying to get the wings on, because it takes like big people and most of the people are small.
They're small? How long did it take to put those wings on?
A while.
A while?
Sun 'n Fun marked the first time the airplane was out on display. The group came to Sun 'n Fun to raffle off the airplane and raise funds for their next project. Regardless of the raffle, building and taking the airplane to Sun 'n Fun was a perfect confidence builder for the young aviators. During our time at Sun 'n Fun, Sarah and Curtis got a chance to sit down with Miracle on the Hudson hero, First Officer Jeff Skiles.
So everyone is aware by now, I'm sure, of the Miracle of the Hudson, and today we have the great pleasure of having Mr. Jeff Skiles on with us. It's a pleasure to have you here, Mr. Skiles.
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking me here.
Now, you've been down at Sun 'n Fun this week. What kinds of things have you been doing at Sun 'n Fun to keep busy?
I've been very busy here, mostly speaking about my experience with the Miracle on the Hudson and various venues here. I've gotten to do some fun things, too. Kermit Weeks flew me to the Splash Inn a couple days ago in his Duck, which is a large World War II radial engine biplane amphibious aircraft. And that was a lot of fun to go out there, and I got the whole tour of this Fantasy of Flight operation out there, as well as talk to a lot of seaplane pilots.
So you got to fly the Duck. What other airplanes have you had a chance to get in while you were here?
Well, I actually haven't gotten to fly any other airplanes. That was my only time in the air while I've been here at Sun 'n Fun. I've gotten to go and talk to a lot of people, and I got a lot of IOUs for flights in the future. There's a big yellow Beech Stagger wing up there, and he's going to fly it to Broadhead for the Pete and Pole fly-in there, which is right before Oshkosh, and take it to Oshkosh. And he says, we'll swap rides while we're there for me and the Staggerwing, him and my Waco. So I'm looking forward to that. When I go to occasions like this, I always try to find some people to hook up to who treat me like I'm a normal person so I can have a little sanity in my life. And I've been hanging out all week with the Coconut Flyers. It's a group of Stearman owners down there in the antique parking area. And anytime I get away from any kind of media event or speaking, I run down there and hang with them for a little bit of time.
What are some of the highlights or experiences you've had that you really think are bang on here at Sun 'n Fun?
Well, you know, it's a little more laid back than I'd say the Oshkosh convention is. It's about half the size, which is actually kind of nice because in your time here, you can see everything. Oshkosh is so big that, you know, I got a DVD after I was up there, and of course I played it on my TV, and I saw all these things that happened. I'm thinking, I was there all week. When did that happen? I didn't see any of this because it's such a big venue and there's so much going on. Here, it's just about the right size so that a person can be here, you know, for a number of days and then see the entire event, and that's kind of nice.
Hope you're enjoying our Sun 'n Fun special. There really is a sense of fraternity and camaraderie here. And of course, there's always an eager and willing owner to chat up and brag about his favorite airplane.
I'm David Adams. I fly a Cessna 185 that I'm standing against here. It's a 1978 model, 300 horsepower amphibious seaplane, four-seater aircraft, plenty enough room and power to carry all the camping gear and gear that we need for remote country tent camping. I've taken this airplane all over North America, Mexico, the Caribbean. By far my favorite thing to do with the aircraft is to take it up to the North Country, in the remote areas of Canada and Alaska and the Yukon.
My name is Ben Ellison. I'm the designer of the Geoduck amphibian, which you see behind me. It's unique in that it's the only twin-engine amphibian that's made of composite material, making it very, very saltwater friendly. And it's configured to carry enough fuel to go a very long distance. It can make it all the way from San Francisco to Hawaii. However, it requires that my wife ship my luggage. The aircraft is 6,000 pounds fully loaded, and it's 4,000 pounds empty. Cruise is about 120 knots. And the interior is configured rather sparsely. The seats are easily removed to make room for a dead moose and a bunch of dead salmon. That's the kind of thing that we enjoy doing with the airplane.
Hi, my name is Jim Poole. I've been flying for 49 years and I'm a retired airline pilot. And I'm the proud owner of this beautiful Republic CB. The CBs were built in 1946 and 1947. CB flies for over 600 miles at 100 miles an hour, can carry 4 people and fuel and bags, and will get everybody off the water or off the land in a very short distance. And in my opinion, they haven't built a better amphibious airplane since.
Every year at Sun 'n Fun, the amphibs and floatplanes take over for a day. Hosted by local aviation museum Fantasy of Flight, Splash In attracts all sorts of unique seaplanes. From Fantasy of Flight's own Grumman J2F Duck to the more abundant lake amphibians, Splash In is an opportunity for seabird pilots to get together in their natural habitat. However, as Sarah found out from Splash In organizer Sharon Stebbins, bringing this many amphibious planes together isn't easy.
What sort of problems do you encounter when organizing something like this?
Well, there's logistics as far as buses are concerned, and bus schedules and bus drivers. And then, of course, you have all different positions that have to be filled in the tent. We have registration, getting the banquet tickets sold. We need to sell more or sell less, one or the other. It's incredibly exciting.
One of the best things about Splash In is that it's just a short flight from the rest of the excitement over at Lakeland Linder Regional Airport.
So Sarah and I have been at Sun and Fun all week, and we've had a fantastic time, not just because of the great displays, but because of all of the small details. We're joined by John Burton, president of Sun and Fun.
It's really a year-round effort. In fact, for next year's fly-in, we're already talking to people who are here so that we can get next year's event off and rolling even as we speak.
What's the percentage of people that come back every year?
We have a high percentage of people who come back year after year after year. As a matter of fact, we're celebrating our 36th year this year, and a lot of people have been here almost since day one. The number of our volunteers number in excess of 3,000 at any given time on the site, have an average time served here of 10 years or more. So it's an event that people are familiar with, they're very comfortable with, and we'd like to think it's because of the activities that we offer and the Southern style hospitality that goes right along with it.
So one of the questions that I would have is, this is my first time visiting, and for people who haven't had the chance to come and visit themselves, how would you describe the magnitude of this event?
I would say it's difficult to appreciate the size and scale of any event, and as an aviator, you'll appreciate this. The best view is from up on top, because from about 1,500 feet to 2,000 feet, you can really see the size and scope of the event, the enormity of the airport itself, and then start to appreciate some of the details that go into the day-to-day operations. It is a big deal, and it requires a lot of help to pull it off.
Now, all of us that are here are passionate about aviation. That's what drives us to travel the distances that people do to this event. But this is your job 365 days a year. What kind of things make you passionate about aviation?
One of the things that makes me passionate about aviation is the sense of freedom that every person experiences when they defeat the forces of gravity. When I see people, especially young people, who go for their first flight in an airplane, usually they begin with trepidation. I mean, they're not quite sure. They've never been in a small single-engine airplane before, so they're kind of hesitant. They've heard the horror stories, so they're not quite sure. But with the dual controls, usually they're put into the left-hand seat, and they actually fly the airplane, and when they get out of that airplane, they are a different person than when they went in, because they're walking about 3 feet off the ground, and they're just waiting for somebody to say, "So what have you done lately?" I flew an airplane. And their self-confidence and their perspective on the world from that higher perspectives gives them a big picture that ground pounders just don't seem to experience.
Well, thank you, John, for taking the time to explain to us what goes into organizing an event like this. Sarah and I are having a great time here at Sun and Fun. Can't wait to come back next year. For our viewers at home who haven't been there, make sure to put it on your calendar. You've got to be here next year. Well, it's been a busy week. You know what? It's been a lot busier than I thought it would be. I mean, what can I say? It's a whole different way to experience an air show. I've never been to Sun and Fun before, but I've been to Oshkosh lots of time, and I've never seen an air show through the window that you see it in when you have an opportunity like this.
Well, it's going good. I'm enjoying all the airplanes around here. There's just so much going on right now. There's so much things that we have to get planned and coordinated that it's, at any time, my mind is in a million different places.
Everything's going really good. The crew is fantastic, and the talent is the other thing that really came together well. Curtis is a machine. Curtis came to us with 100 times more knowledge than I really appreciated at the time. And Sarah she's wonderful. She's a really decent person, and she's a one-take wonder.
It was interesting. It's a lot of fun. Luckily, I'm a big aviation nut, so being here was more fun than actual work, you know.
Tired and lost my voice. This whole field we've been on, it's all dusty, but it's all ash. They burn this field every year. So I was sick. This is the first day I was sick in about 7 years. So what can I say about Anthony other than the fact that he's an amazing producer with a lot of heart?
Well, we had a major hat giveaway. I mean, these hats are they're red hot. Everybody wants one. Well, it's been terrific. Our crews have been terrific. Have got some excellent stuff. We have made such an impression here. I mean, I knew that we would, but I didn't know it would be quite this good. Our shirts have been everywhere. Our hats have been everywhere. Our crews have been buzzing around. If people didn't know about the Aviators, they sure as heck do now.
I have had an amazing time here at Sun and Fun. The weather is perfect. There's a breeze. The sun is out. Smells of aviation everywhere. I mean, hot dogs, jet fuel. What more could you want?
I've also had a wonderful time, the chance to live and breathe 7 consecutive days of aviation. I've enjoyed the southern barbecues as well.
have beer with a couple of friends, wing night, barbecues. It's wonderful. It's all here. If there's one thing that you put on your bucket list, it's to come to Sun and Fun.
We'll see you next week.
The Aviators, for everyone who has ever gazed skywards.
For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv.
For the first time on TV, the stories and reports of the people who fly and the aircraft they fly. And you are invited in an exciting, pulse-pumping new television series designed for everyone who has ever gazed skywards and dreamt of slipping the bonds of Earth. The Aviators.
Today on The Aviators, we take a look at the future of air transportation with the Airbus A380. We peek inside a Cessna 206 during an annual inspection. We're back in the simulator to see what happens when a private pilot takes control of an airliner. And we get a ride inside the cockpit of the L-29 Delta. From the Boundary Bay Airport, this is The Aviators. With its maiden flight in 2005, the Airbus A380 ushered in a new era of passenger aircraft. This airplane is huge. Nicknamed the Super Jumbo, it's 238 feet long and 8 stories high, making the A380 the largest passenger aircraft in the world. The Aviators' Sarah Rapenda caught up with A380 test pilot Terry Lutz at AirVenture.
Now, you know, I look at this airplane and wow, it is huge. Does every airport in the world have the ability to carry an aircraft of this size?
Actually, most airports around the world can accommodate an airplane the size of the A380. When we began the design process for this airplane, we knew that we had to design it so that it had a significantly slower approach speed and a significantly slower takeoff speed so that it could be use all the existing runways.
In fact, compatibility with current airports was one of the main concerns governing the development of the A380. Not only is the runway length requirement for the A380 relatively low, the aircraft is also certified to be able to operate on runways as narrow as 150 feet in width.
Every single landing was recorded and the displacement from the center line was recorded, and we were able to show statistically that this airplane has no problem landing on a 150-foot wide runway. The real problem that you have is, do you have the open space available to taxi to your gates, and then do you have the lateral gate space that you need from wingtip to wingtip with other aircraft? The wingspan of the A380 is 80 meters. In fact, that's how the A380 got its designation.
Okay.
Or anything bigger than that, then they would not be able to operate without special consideration.
So it's literally the biggest it can get.
The biggest airplane that will fit in the 80-meter box.
Airbus is an aviation juggernaut. Originally made up of a consortium of 5 European companies, Airbus delivered 498 aircraft in 2009, making it the #1 manufacturer of passenger airliners in the world. Despite these European roots, the A380's Engine Alliance engines are made in the United States.
So tell me a little bit about these engines.
Well, the engines on this particular airplane were built by Engine Alliance, which is a consortium between General Electric and Pratt & Whitney, both U.S. companies. Okay. A large amount of U.S. content in this particular airplane. These engines produce 70,000 pounds of thrust each.
That's per engine.
Per engine, wow. So 280,000 pounds of thrust for the whole airplane.
That's incredible.
And it's one of the things that gives the airplane such great climb performance and such great cruise performance.
Terry gave us an opportunity to have a unique look at the A380's entirely fly-by-wire cockpit.
I'm looking at this cockpit, and honestly, it looks nothing like my Cessna 172. Could you explain a little bit the layout?
Yeah, this is a fly-by-wire airplane. So with fly-by-wire technology, we're able to fly the airplane with a very small side stick controller. So all the pilot inputs are made right here on the side stick controller. These are the thrust levers. Thrust levers can be used just like the single one in your Cessna, except that when we fly the airplane, we use the auto thrust almost exclusively. And the way we get the auto thrust to arm on takeoff is we move the thrust levers up to takeoff position, and then we bring them back to the climb detent, which arms the auto thrust. And then all of the speed changes and all the altitude changes that we need to do, we do here on the FCU panel, which is our flight control unit. Another thing to notice on the thrust levers is that here are your reverse controls, and you'll notice that only the two inboard engines have reverse on the Airbus A380.
And why is that?
Well, it's mainly because the outboard engines, in fact, even on a 150-foot wide runway, are actually right on the edge. So we only reverse the engines that are right over the runway itself. And for all of the other systems on the airplane, we use the controls on the overhead panel. For example, here are all of your air handling systems, the electrical system, fuel system, hydraulics, and fire and warning systems. Now, if we have any systems problems, it will be displayed on the lower ECAM, Electronic Centralized Avionics Monitoring, or Aircraft Monitoring. And we'll get a message here, and it will begin with the name of the system. And you go right up here, up the side to the name of the system that you want, and then begin reconfiguring as appropriate.
While a lot of the systems on the A380 are largely automated, the core flight systems are still very familiar to any pilot experienced on smaller jetliners in the Airbus fleet. In fact, Terry even finds similarities flying the A380 and his personal aircraft, a Vans RV-8.
What I like about both airplanes is that once you're off the ground, you have a very light, nimble feel on the control stick. Both airplanes respond with very little control motion, and they do exactly what I want them to do without any compensation to get there. And I think that's the most impressive part. The A380, one of the differences, and actually makes this airplane better, is that it auto-trims, so I never have to constantly be bumping on my trim button like I do in my RV-8. But once I have the airplane trimmed, both airplanes are very, very responsive. And of course, this is a larger airplane, and I wouldn't expect it to be as quick as an RV-8 or other aerobatic airplane. But as far as being precise, I think that's the key word. It's as precise as that smaller airplane that I'm flying.
This aircraft will redefine the large-scale movement of air travelers. In an all-economy configuration, the aircraft can carry over 800 passengers, almost double the capacity of a 747. But most carriers are choosing to instead make the aircraft more luxurious. Singapore Airlines now offers enclosed luxury suites featuring extra-wide reclining seats or full lay-down beds with turn-down service.
Now, if you could sum up the A380 in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
It's the future of air transportation.
At the Aviators, we've showcased all sorts of different aircraft, from general aviation aircraft to the giant A380. Whether it be a J3 Cub or Boeing 747, all aircraft have one thing in common: they all need maintenance. However, instead of waiting for things to go wrong, regulatory bodies such as Transport Canada or the FAA stipulate that all aircraft are operated under a maintenance schedule. For smaller, general aviation aircraft, this is known as the annual inspection. Today we're at the Brampton Flying Club with Director of Maintenance Angelo Macconi. Angelo, I'm a pilot. My life depends on your work. Is this just a bunch of paperwork, or is this a legitimate inspection?
Annual inspections on aircraft are vital to the safety concerns of the pilots and the passengers. These aircraft are maintained differently than a car. We don't have the option of pulling over if something goes wrong. So every year the airplane goes through an opening of all inspection panels, and all systems, every nut and bolts gets inspected and checked over.
Now, these annual inspections are regulated by Transport Canada here in Canada. From a regulatory perspective, what's involved? How is it governed?
Transport Canada, being the governing body, operates through a series of regulations known as the Canadian Aviation Regulations. In those regulations, there are guidelines as to what needs to happen, what needs to be inspected, and what needs to be certified. Along with that, the manufacturer of the aircraft also has inspection sheets that we follow while we're conducting the inspection.
Now, getting your hands dirty, how deep do you really dig into this?
We go into it very deep. Once again, it's all about safety, and we cannot pull over in the air. So we open and close every panel, every nut and bolt gets checked, and we get into it fairly in depth.
When you take all the panels off and when you're looking at the engine, what type of things are you looking for?
Inside an inspection panel, there's pulleys, there's ribs, there's frames of the airframe that we inspect for cracks. Cables for the flight controls get inspected for wear, fraying, and that sort of thing.
When you're doing an annual inspection, what type of snags do you typically find on the average inspection?
All components on an aircraft either have a calendar time or an hourly time, which way they need to be either overhauled or replaced. Examples of that would be an alternator brush inspection, engine hoses, brake hoses, wheel bearings need to be cleaned and lubricated every so often, that sort of thing.
In your extensive career, talk about some more of the extremes. What have you found during these inspections, some of the crazier snags?
A lot of cracked cylinders, cracked landing gear actuators. We found engine control cables that are twisted and not rigged correctly.
And when you find these cracks and corrosion and so on, where do you refer for the limitations on how far that can get until replacement is required on these parts?
Most cases, it's through the aircraft maintenance manual. They will specify the limitations in there. A lot of it has to do with experience level. And worst case scenario, there's what they call a Bible, which is the AC 4313, and that gives us limits as well.
For the annual inspection, the aircraft comes into your hangar, you do the inspection. How long does that take roughly?
That would typically take about 2 days to go through the inspection portion of it. Once that has been done, we notify the owner as to which snags that we have found and get authorizations as to which snags we actually go ahead and repair. Depending on the nature of the snag, that will dictate how long the airplane would remain in the hangar. Typically, it's about a 10-day turnaround on an annual inspection.
So now the million-dollar question. Everyone must be wondering, how much does this cost? So Angelo, on the Cessna 206, what's the final bill going to be like?
Well, that always seems to put a smile on my face when I discuss this. This particular airplane will be $2,000 just for the inspection portion of it. The annual requirements will be about $200, and any authorized snags will be over and above that. Typically, this aircraft here, by the time it leaves the hangar, will be $5,000 to $6,000.
Well, safety is priceless, and it's great to hear that we have aircraft mechanics such as Angelo keeping pilots, passengers, and the general public safe in the sky.
Recently, the Aviators went into a simulator to get step-by-step instruction on how to land an airliner. Our pilot was correspondent Jeff Lewis, who flies airliners for a living. This week, we returned to the simulator to see if a private pilot can land a jetliner.
The scenario is our pilots have become disabled, and someone noticed my Aviators hat and made an assumption. I am a private pilot. I'm going to step into the controls, and I'm going to try and save 90-odd people.
After getting myself settled, I managed to get a hold of air traffic control.
Houston Center, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday.
Aircraft calling Houston. Go ahead, say your identification.
Houston, I'm a private pilot, and I'm at the controls of an airliner here. Our pilots have become disabled, and Houston, we have a problem.
Roger, copy that. Can you identify the aircraft that you're on?
We're at cruise autopilot, and I'm flying an Embraer right now, an Embraer 190.
Okay, Roger, we copy. Show you 12 miles from the intersection. That's giving you about 20 miles to Houston Airport.
Okay, it looks like we've started our descent.
Okay, well, it's just stay calm. You can do this. It's just like landing any other aircraft. We're showing your heading as 247. Do you see where that is?
Yep, 247.
Okay, please turn the aircraft to the left, heading 160, and you can look on the glare shield near where the altitude select was. It should say heading select.
Okay, so I'll just turn the heading select counterclockwise to 160?
That's correct.
Okay, here we go.
Unlike any other plane I'm used to, I'm making all my heading and altitude changes on the aircraft's FCU panel and trusting the autopilot to do the rest. Now ATC is asking some questions that are making me a little nervous.
Roger. Do you have any idea how many passengers are on board, sir?
It looks like it's a full house, and I think it holds 94 or something like that.
Okay, and if you could just let us know what happened up there.
The pilots appear to be out of commission right now. I think they might have had to fish.
Okay, Roger, we copy. Just security protocol, we're going to be scrambling two F-16s to come intercept you. They will remain clear. You don't have to worry about them, but it is for security reasons.
Well, now that I've made some new friends, ATC manages to guide me around, and I have the airport in sight. At this point, I'm informed that I will be manually flying the aircraft. Now the fun starts.
We've cleared all the other traffic out of the way, and we copy you just going through 6,000 feet at 250 knots. Confirm that?
It's coming through 6,000, 5,800 now, 250 knots. And if the field is at our 11 o'clock, I have it in sight.
On your control yoke, you should see a red button. That red button will disable your autopilot.
Okay, I'm using a push-to-talk on the panel right now. Is there a trigger or something on the yoke?
There is, and it's next to the electric trim, just above the autopilot disconnect.
Autopilot.
Okay, got it.
So I recommend continue descent down to 3,000 feet, and I can hear your autopilot alarm going off. Please double click the autopilot disconnect there, and that sounds a lot better.
Roger, did it.
Yeah, altitude is now your discretion. You can enter a left-hand circuit, and I recommend you enter a left circuit for 33 right or left, whatever runway your choice. The wind is out of the north.
Okay, it looks like I'm on a heading of about 33 now, so that would be the runway that we're coming up to. I think we'll take 33 and we'll do the left circuit.
Roger. Altitude, heading is your discretion. You are cleared to land on runway of your choice.
I'm in good shape now. I can see the airport, I've made my left turns into the pattern, my flaps are set, and the landing gear is down. Now I just have to land the plane.
Okay, remember, this is a larger aircraft than you used to fly. You have to flare it a little higher. When you hear the voice call out 20, that's when you should flare the airplane and bring the thrust levers to idle and just plant the airplane onto the runway.
Houston, how am I looking on your end?
Okay, you're in good shape. Your speed's a little high, and we're showing you a little below the slope. So just hold that altitude until the runway's a little bigger in your window. We're still showing you a little fast, but you're in good shape. You're doing a great job.
Finally, I've hit the moment of truth. I've cleared the trees, and I'm ready to touch down. Can I do it? This is a simulator, but it'll behave exactly like the real thing. I've planned the approach in my head, and now I'm ready to carry it out. But I've never landed anything more than a single-engine Cessna. This airplane weighs 41 tons.
All right, this is actually looking like a...
Don't let your speed get back too low. No less than what you're doing now. Okay, you're short final, you're in great shape. Just put that airplane on the runway and good luck.
30, 20, 10.
Okay, we show you on the ground. Congratulations, you've landed the aircraft. Well done.
Thanks very, very much, Houston. Well, we're down and we're safe, and you know they say any landing you can walk away from is a good one. And I think this is a pretty good one, all things considered. When we were on short final, it's really strange because it did not feel or look dissimilar to what I'm used to landing on any runway in the 206. But we're down, we're safe, and this private pilot just landed an airliner. Wow.
Next week, we'll show you the final feature in the simulator. Can a non-pilot at the controls of an airliner land an airplane? Our cameraman, Devin Lund, takes his shot at trying to land the Embraer 190.
I don't think there are any odds. I think it's 100% I'm going to not land this aircraft.
My name is Richard Cooper, and I fly the L-29 Delphin.
Every child who has ever been to an air show or watched Top Gun has dreamed of owning or flying their own fighter jet. Private aerobatic pilot Richard Cooper took this dream to a new level. Not only did he buy his own jet, the L-29 Delphin, he now flies it in air shows. The Aviators cameras had a chance to join Richard on a recent flight.
It's a beautiful aircraft to fly with a straight wing. It's very docile. I mean, actually getting out of the MiG, flying it sometimes, jumping into the Delphin is like flying, it seems like flying a 172. It really is. A lot of people would look at it and say, oh, geez, a jet, that's going to be very complex to fly, going to be difficult, but actually it's not.
The L-29, as far as jets go, is inexpensive, with a base price tag ranging from as low as $16,000 to $65,000 US. But they're not cheap to maintain. The annual inspection alone can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. This is largely owing to the aircraft's origins as a Soviet-era fighter.
They weren't concerned about the fact of the labor issue. They were happy to employ people, so they didn't look at something where they were going to actually have minimal types of man-hour maintenance. It's very simple, but it requires people to look at it. The L-29 was used up until about 10 years ago by a few forces around the world. It was designed as an advanced fighter trainer light ground support. So the aircraft can be outfitted with rockets or bombs. This current model has 2 drop tanks on it. It doesn't have a gun, but it can be used for light ground support, but it's quite extensively used for training. A lot of people would train in the L-29 Delphin and then move on up to a MiG-17 or 19 or a MiG-21. The Russians have a very unique steering and braking system on the aircraft. It's pneumatic. So the aircraft has a non-in-flight replenishable nitrogen system. Basically, you push the rudder pedal that you want to brake, and then you grab a lever and you pull it with your hand, and that applies air to the actual brake that you're pushing down on. So you'll see the airplane sometimes dipping and nosing like this, and both the MiG and the L-29 have the same braking system.
Flying a high-performance jet does require an experienced pilot and a special endorsement. Richard received his in Delaware. There are several pilot centers around the U.S. that can provide L-29 endorsements.
Well, basically, to fly this type of high-performance aircraft, you need a minimum of 1,000 hours fixed-wing time before you can actually even get an endorsement on it. And then basically it's a matter of just like flying any other aircraft. You go out, do the training on it, do the ground school, and eventually go for a ride and get an endorsement. With the straight wing, it performs very, very well. It's a fairly easy aircraft to handle. It doesn't have a problem going slow because of the straight wing, so you can actually get it into the pattern, slow it down to 140. 140 knots is pretty slow for the airplane, but when you're coming into a small airport, you can do it at 140 knots and you don't feel unsafe. I mean, the aircraft is, getting a little bit near the edge, but you can actually do it. The airplane performs pretty much everything really well. It'll do aileron rolls, it'll do barrel rolls, it'll do loops very, very well. The aircraft is a beautiful aircraft to fly and an excellent performer.
As a former trainer aircraft, the L-29 gives Richard the unique opportunity of giving non-aviators the jet experience in the Delphin's second seat.
Most of the time we end up doing aileron rolls. That's about the most that people can end up taking without ever having a problem getting sick. Even then, a few of those and people start feeling a little uneasy. If you're going out, I like going out and pulling some G's with the airplane because that always is a great way to show people the performance of it. You roll the airplane up into a 80-degree bank and start pulling on it, and all of a sudden they feel themselves sinking into the seat and they can't move, and they realize, oh my gosh, I'm powering around this corner at a horrific rate. That seems to be one of the things people really enjoy.
G-force is the relative force experienced by an object as it's pulled towards the Earth. During aerobatic maneuvers, pilots can experience many times their own body weight. The force they experience is expressed as G's.
Stressed for 8. The most we've ever done it is 7.5. 7.5 times your body weight. So if you take your body weight multiplied by 7.5, you end up with a pretty big number. As you're pulling those G's, the blood is trying to rush out of your head. You're trying to force it back in. You're straining every single muscle in your body, working it, and it does get very tiring. Well, this particular aircraft flies a lot quicker than the standard one, but we'll cruise along at 250 knots, but the aircraft will do 540 miles an hour. Well, you're burning a lot of fuel when you're going that fast, there's no doubt about it. I mean, at that point you've got the throttle pushed right up, but the fact is the aircraft will do it. This aircraft will go to the design limit of the aircraft, which is 0.7 Mach in level flight. So if you push the throttle right forward, you can get it up to 0.7 Mach where the speed brakes will automatically deploy.
The L-29 can burn up its entire 1,300-liter fuel load in about 120 minutes. Luckily, with this limited range, the L-29 has a fairly short runway requirement, allowing Richard to bring the aircraft into smaller airports.
This particular aircraft for landing is very good. You can get this aircraft into a 3,500-foot runway. It comes in at a very, very slow speed in comparison to make, so you can actually get it into shorter strips. 3,500 feet is not a difficult landing runway to get it in. 4,000 feet is very, very comfortable, but you can do 3,500. A very forgiving airplane, and it's a great entry-level jet. If anybody was thinking about moving into a jet, I would recommend the Delphin hands down.
Offload or we roll? How's that? That was pretty cool.
The Aviators, for everyone who has ever gazed skywards.
For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv.
Now, for the first time on TV, the stories and reports of the people who fly and the aircraft they fly. And you are invited in an exciting, pulse-pumping new television series designed for everyone who has ever gazed skywards and dreamt of slipping the bonds of Earth. The Aviators.
This week on The Aviators, we take a look at the ins and outs of light sport aviation. We check out Xeon portable collision avoidance systems. We talk to Women in Aviation founder Patty Shabrian.
So they say, oh yeah, there are a lot of other women out there doing this.
And we see if a non-pilot can land an airliner.
I don't think there are any odds. I think it's 100% I'm going to not land this aircraft.
From the Boundary Bay Airport, this is The Aviators.
Light sport is one of the fastest growing segments of aviation today. People love them because not only are they easy to use, easy to fly, but they're also really cost effective and amazing on gas. They max out at 1,320 pounds, 120 knots of airspeed, and you can get them on floats, you can get them on wheels, you can even get amphibious ones that look just like boats. They are an excellent alternative for aviation enthusiasts.
In 2004, the FAA created the light sport aircraft category. Since that time, it's been embraced by manufacturers, with major brands such as Cessna and Piper producing aircraft that meet LSA requirements. The Aviator's Sarah Rapenda caught up with Greg Ellsworth from the Light Aircraft Manufacturers Association. Greg gave us some insight into why light sports are so popular.
Greg, tell me a little bit about light sport and why it's so popular right now.
Well, I think they're brand new airplanes. And they have a lot of interesting new features available to them. In other words, first of all, it's a brand new two-place airplane. And it's got some real interesting things with the pilot licensing on it. And there's a lot of people that are maybe worried about flying later on in life, and maybe their medical not working and stuff. As long as they have a valid driver's license and have a pilot's license or a light sport license, they're able to fly these airplanes.
What makes a light sport aircraft a light sport aircraft?
Well, that's a specific category, and that category has some weight limitations and some speed limitations, and mostly it's a 1,320-pound aircraft. We're looking at this new Piper one right here. There's also amphibious airplanes or ones that have floats on them as well. They fit into a category which gives you a little more weight. It's up to 1,430 pounds. They can't go over that, and they have a max speed rating of 120 too. So they have to stay in that. And basically, these are travel airplanes. You can go a long ways. They're faster than the old Cessna 150s were.
Unlike the ultralight class, which requires no pilot's licensing in the U.S., light sport aircraft require either a regular pilot's license or a sport pilot license to fly. Pilots who hold a sport pilot license are restricted to flying during daylight hours only and are limited to certain airspace and altitudes. But the advantage of light sports versus ultralights is the ability to carry a passenger. According to Greg, this is one of the reasons the class was developed.
think the history came out of the ultralight movement, where we were trying to fix the two-place thing that was never available in ultralights. Started off with some committees, and EURAC committee was around. They were trying to fix the two-place exemptions and stuff so we could do some flight training in them. So we got together and we worked out the standard and came up with a light sport category. And now there are, I think, 105 of these registered as light sports, special light sports, which means they're factory built. And you can buy them and fly, get your license and take it off and go flying. You don't have to build it. There are some available kits that are experimental light sports, but these are fully factory-built airplanes. This is the first time this has ever been done in aviation in the United States, or maybe in the world.
Light sport aircraft run the gamut of all sorts of designs, and it's not hard for a pilot to find the right one for them.
This is another great example of light sport aircraft. It's also amphibious, but it's on floats. The weight rises from 1320 to 1430 to allow for the extra weight of the floats. Cruises along at about 90 miles an hour, seats too comfortably, and the beautiful thing about an amphibious aircraft is that not only can you land it on a lake for your cottage and fishing needs, but you can also land it at your local airport for routine maintenance.
The extra weight available for amphibious light sports has spurred a number of amphibious designs, including small flying boats such as the Sea Ray.
This is the Sea Ray LSX, and it is a great example of amphibious light sport. You cruise along at about 80 to 90 miles per hour, and it sips at gas at only 5.5 gallons per hour and about 4.5 hours of range. But the really interesting feature of this aircraft is the folding wings. It's regularly at about 30 feet, but you fold them up and they're at 10 feet. You can store it in your hangar or in the garage if you want to.
Sea Ray is not the only company embracing this style of amphibious light sport aircraft. The Icon A5 was designed to bring the freedom, fun, and adventure back into aviation. With a large input from the automotive industry, the A5 is targeted as a way for the average consumer to get into aviation. According to former F-16 pilot and Icon founder Kirk Hawkins, the creation of the light sport class is what made this possible.
This aircraft was designed from the very beginning by some of the best aircraft engineers together with some of the best auto engineers and designers in the world to try to create the first true, pure, consumer-focused sport recreational flying vehicle. The reason that we can do that today is because there's two big changes by the FAA in the U.S., and that is, one, the creation of light sport aircraft category, and two, the sport pilot license, which allows almost anybody to fly now safely with adequate training for about half the time and half the cost previously. So about 2 or 3 weeks of training, $3,000 or $4,000, and anyone who's ever dreamed of flying now has safe access to that market. And that's sort of where we come from, and this is the product that we think can inspire people to actually get out and do that.
Light sport is a U.S. regulation. Most other countries have similar regulations known as either ultralight or microlight. For those interested in this sort of aircraft, be sure to check with your local regulator. Regardless of where you are in the world, the FAA's light sport classification has resulted in a whole lot of new, fun, and exciting aircraft. With thousands of new pilots taking to the air every year, the skies are steadily becoming more crowded. The majority of these flights fall into the realm of general aviation, meaning they are neither scheduled airline nor military flights. Most general aviation pilots are flying under VFR, or visual flight rules. This means the pilot has to be able to look out the window and see clearly where they're going. It also means that they have to be able to see other aircraft. Portable collision avoidance systems, or PCAS, are designed to assist pilots in avoiding other aircraft, working either in conjunction with a pilot's existing GPS system or as a standalone unit. Curtis caught up with Xeon Flight Systems Vice President Kevin Van Drunen to chat about the origins and importance of their PCAS units.
And so, Kevin, I'm curious how the founders of Xeon got started in the PCAS business.
The founders were both pilots, and they had a friend that died in a mid-air collision, so that really inspired them to come up with a portable and affordable solution for general aviation.
And Xeon Flight Systems, it sounds like a very much of a homegrown technology. Where is Xeon headquartered at? Where was it developed?
Xeon Flight Systems is headquartered in Addison, Texas. We also manufacture and assemble all our products over there, and from there it's distributed to all over the world.
PCAS works by detecting signals transmitted by an aircraft's transponder. PCAS systems are passive, meaning that instead of sending an interrogation signal to other transponders itself, it simply relies on signals already being sent from ground radar and other aircraft. PCAS then translates the received signals into useful information, which it displays on the screen. Engineering technician Daniel Evans was able to explain which aircraft would be displayed by the system.
So the first question I think people will be thinking about is what kind of airplanes would be displayed on a PCAS system?
For the most part, it's going to be any airplane that is equipped with a transponder. The transponder needs to be interrogated.
And so what kind of systems would interrogate the transponder to make it visible on your PCAS?
Any kind of active system, either in a private plane, commercial airliners use active transponder interrogators, as well as ground radar, military aircraft, military bases.
So any aircraft that's visible to air traffic control would be visible to you using one of these PCAS systems?
PCAS is available in two different models, the more robust XRX and the entry-level MRX.
The MRX is our entry-level model. It shows you range and altitude of the biggest threat. It keeps track of multiple aircraft that are around you, but it always prioritizes them and gives you the biggest threat.
With our MRX, what we show you is the relative range of the target aircraft, as well as its altitude separation from you. So what you'd see, for example, in this one, you see a 0.7 miles away, so it's 0.7 of a mile away. The altitude is -6, so it's 600 feet below your aircraft. And that trend arrow indicates if he's ascending or descending, so becoming more or less of a traffic threat.
Displaying this information makes it easier for the pilot to visually identify the other aircraft. Once they know where the other airplane is, they can decide on the best action to take to avoid a collision. One of the advantages of the XRX over the MRX is that it also displays the relative direction of the nearby aircraft.
It's different because it also gives you direction. It really sets it apart from the MRX and also all the competitive systems. It tracks multiple aircraft, but it will show you up to 3 aircraft, where the MRX only shows you 1, the biggest threat. Continuously prioritizes all the aircraft and shows you number 1, 2, and 3. The number 1 on the left side, the bigger display, and then the second biggest and the third biggest threat.
What you're going to see with the XRX is not only range and altitude, but azimuth. So as you see in this display right here, the primary target's 3 miles away, 2.5 miles away now. It shows it lights up 2 arrows indicating it's at a 45, and you see the altitude below it as well. It also, because it's the XRX, we can display 3 targets at once, meaning you get your primary and 2 secondaries. As you see here, you have 1 as a primary, a secondary is 3 miles away, 1,400 feet above you.
With modern moving map systems, general aviation pilots are able to get a top-down view of where they are and where they're going. When integrated with a PCAS XRX, pilots are also able to see other aircraft displayed directly on the map.
For the most part, what you're going to see is a standard symbology with altitude above or below the unit. You're going to see an altitude either plus or minus, as well as its actual location on the map. So in this example, what you see is a target that's 400 feet above you, 200 feet above you, closing in on your location. As it becomes more of a traffic threat, it enters a traffic warning area. For the Garmin, it's 2 miles, 700 feet. And it becomes a threat, and you'll see a pop-up warning window to let you know you need to pay attention to that aircraft because it is too close.
Flying is a great way to get out and enjoy the Earth, but it has to be done safely. Systems like PCAS assist the pilot in flying safer, but the final controls are still in human hands, and it's up to the pilot to ensure that they stay safe. The Aviators was surprised to learn that current FAA estimates show that of the 750,000 active pilots across North America, only 6% are women. Starting with a simple annual conference, Women in Aviation was founded with the objective of increasing this number. Our own woman in aviation, Sarah Rapenda, sat down recently with the founder of Women in Aviation, Dr. Peggy Beatty-Shabrian.
So Women in Aviation, it's big and it's growing fast. Can you tell me how it started?
Women in Aviation actually did things kind of backwards. A lot of times you have an organization that forms and decide to have an annual meeting or conference at some point, but we actually started as an annual conference. In fact, it was March 1990, Women's History Month. We had the first Women in Aviation conference in Prescott, Arizona, and had about 150 people show up, and we thought that was a great turnout. So the second conference was in St. Louis with about 250 people, and after about 5 years we had grown to 500 attendees, and people were starting to ask, well, I come to this conference and I meet a lot of great people and network, but how do I join the organization? Well, I don't know, because there wasn't an organization. But that was the impetus to put together, it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We now have over 8,000 members. At our convention this year, we had 3,000 people, so it's been wonderful to watch it grow. You could go to a lot of aviation conventions, particularly back in the 90s, and there weren't very many women there. So to come to a convention that was like the opposite, you had like 90% women and 10% men, it was an affirmation, if you will, for the women who were in aviation to come to this event and say, oh yeah, there are a lot of other women out there doing this, even though maybe in their day-to-day life or aviation connection, they didn't see very many others.
At the heart of Women in Aviation are the annual conferences. Taking place in a different city each year, these conferences bring together more than 3,000 women and men with a passion for flying. The conferences feature high-energy presentations, a trade show, and a bevy of male and female speakers.
So the convention is a big part, then, of your organization. What can a person expect when they go to one of these?
There's a lot of spirit of enthusiasm and energy. One of the compliments we receive from our exhibitors every year is a lot of times at a show, by the end of the afternoon or end of the last day, there's hardly anyone in the halls. Our exhibit hall is full all the time. When the doors are open, our folks are in there. We bring in industry leaders. We've had some wonderful speakers at our convention. We've had FAA administrators, men and women. We have some astronauts, including Peggy Whitson, who was the first woman to be the commander of the space station. And these women are always willing to share, particularly with the young people, some suggestions, ideas, how they can reach their goals and their dreams in aviation.
You have a lot of influential women involved in the industry that are a part of this organization. Is there one person that you can think of off the top of your head that's contributed a huge amount?
I hate to name just one, but maybe I'll give you two, and they're very prominent in terms of not just the aviation community, but the general public, and that would be two air show performers that come to mind right away. Patty Wagstaff, who's National Aerobatic Champion, World Aerobatic Performer. She's been involved with us almost since the very beginning, has given lots of presentations and has helped us actually get the organization going. And Julie Clark, who's another well-known air show performer and been very supportive of our organization and participating in a lot of our events and outreach programs.
The organization offers a number of programs designed to assist women in becoming involved in or advancing within the aviation community. This includes programs for commercial and recreational pilots, as well as related fields such as air traffic control and aircraft maintenance. One of the most successful of these initiatives has been their scholarship program.
Well, one of the things we wanted to do was to help young people who wanted to go into an aviation career, and what better way to do that was maybe through a scholarship program. The next year, in 1996, the convention was going to be held in Minneapolis. Northwest Airlines was going to be a major host and sponsor for the event, but they came up to us and they said, "We saw that you started a scholarship program and we'd like to be a part of that. We'd like to help." And I thought, well, great, maybe they'll donate another $1,000 or something. They gave away a type rating. Any airplane that they flew, we announced it to our membership. President of the Northwest Airlines Simulator Division stood up and announced the winner. He said, "Well, young lady, you've won the scholarship. Which airplane do you want to fly?" Came right back, 747. So that certainly was a big boost to our scholarship program in terms of the dollar amount. This year we awarded 83 different scholarships that totaled $687,000, and total to date we've awarded $6.5 million in scholarships. That's probably our biggest success story.
Women in Aviation goes beyond scholarships and conferences. It's really about uniting people with a passion for flying. For Peggy, this passion was ignited during a simple ride around the airport in a small two-seat airplane.
You're the founder and the president of Women in Aviation, and you must fly yourself. Tell us about some of your personal experiences of flight.
Well, I started out in college as an elementary ed major. I was going to teach elementary school. In the summer between my junior and senior year in college, I was working at a restaurant, and one of the customers who came in on a regular basis was a very enthusiastic pilot and airplane owner. He was always inviting people to come out to the airport and go for an airplane flight. And I wasn't too sure about this. I was 21 years old, never been to an airport on any kind of an airplane, airline, or small airplane, but took him up on it one Saturday, went out to the airport in Collegedale, Tennessee. Took off, and I'll always remember that very first flight as the airplane lifted off of the ground and looking down over the airport and the trees and then the houses. And he did what he promised. He flew around the airport and he looked over and he said, "Well," I said, "keep flying. This is great. I like this." So we flew maybe a half an hour that day and went out to the airport a couple weeks later, went for another flight, and then started taking flying lessons, and just was so enthralled with flight. And I think part of it, too, was the challenge, getting pilot certificates and ratings, and went on to instrument and changed my college degree when going into aviation, and we never really looked back. I've always enjoyed flying. The people in aviation, I think, is the other part of what's made all this worthwhile. The flying is certainly an exciting part of it, but also the people that are associated with aviation.
Over the past few weeks, the Aviators has taken you inside the Embraer 190 simulator. Professional pilot Jeff Lewis has shown you how to land an airline. We've also seen what happens when a private pilot takes over on a flight gone terribly wrong. This week, in our final segment in the simulator, we see if a non-pilot can land an aircraft. The Aviators cameraman, Devin Lund, makes his living filming aircraft, so he's no stranger to a cockpit.
My previous flying experience is filming other people flying.
But he's never actually flown an aircraft himself.
I don't think there are any odds. I think it's 100% I'm not land this aircraft.
Despite Devin's lack of confidence, he knows his way around well enough to get settled and get ATC on the line.
Hello, air traffic control. I'm a cameraman. Apparently, everyone on the aircraft is unable to fly, and I am the last resort. Over.
Okay, we copy. Pilots are incapacitated and you're flying the aircraft. Do you have any flying experience whatsoever?
I have zero flying experience.
Well, you're not too far away from the airport, but this might get interesting. We're going to do our best to talk you in. So if you look in front of you, on the screen, you should see on the right side.
After getting a quick tutorial on the Embraer's primary flight display, Devin at least knows what he's looking at. Lucky for him, the aircraft is not too far out. He can see the Houston airport, and it's just a matter of bringing the plane around to land. This does mean that he has to disconnect the autopilot and hand fly the aircraft.
See, there's a red disconnect switch on your yoke to disengage the autopilot. Press that button twice, and you're going to be hand flying the airplane.
Okay, roger.
Okay, disengage it. Autopilot. You're now hand flying. Autopilot. And try to keep your altitude at 3,500 feet, okay? Hit the disconnect switch again to get rid of the noise. So the basics of flying an airplane is just like a car when you turn. So you turn the wheel to the left, the airplane goes left. Turn it to the right, the airplane goes right. To adjust your altitude, your pitch, you pull back on the yoke, that makes the nose go up, and you push forward, it makes it go down, okay?
Devin's doing pretty good. He's getting a handle for the basics of the aircraft, and ATC is confident he'll be able to get the plane on the ground. His big advantage is that no one is really expecting him to actually pull this off. And he's sitting in a flight simulator planted firmly on the ground. In fact, Devin almost seems to be having fun.
Whoa, we're going up. Is that...
No, you want to push the nose down there.
Yeah, okay.
Try to hold your altitude. If you see in the middle of your primary flight display, there's a donut with two lines that looks like a little airplane.
And that's what I should aim for?
The little airplane is where your airplane's going. So you should try to keep that on the white line between the brown and the blue.
The pink one or the green one?
No, the green one.
Oh, okay.
So continue your turn to the left to heading 150.
Okay. Oh, this is kind of like a video game.
It might seem like a video game, but Devin still has a virtual airplane to land that's behaving exactly like the real thing. Engineers have spent millions in developing something that is identical to the actual experience of being 6,000 feet in the sky. He's almost on final. ATC has had him set his flaps, and the landing gear is down. If he can just make this final turn without losing control and spiraling into the ground.
A little bit, start going down.
Yeah, okay.
And bring it to the left to line up with the runway, okay?
Okay.
So that's good right there.
We're at 140 now, so...
Yeah, so bring your power back a little bit.
I guess as we're going down a little in altitude, we're going to be gaining speed, so
That's
keep
right.
leveling off on the power here, huh?
That's correct.
He's on final, and Devin is having to make dozens of small adjustments to his speed and heading. It's a careful balance, and the computer and ATC are quick to tell him when he's made a mistake.
Pull up.
Too low, terrain.
If he gets too slow, the plane will stall and fall out of the sky. If he comes in too fast, he'll land further down the runway and overrun the available stopping distance.
So we're still at 130. How fast should I be going?
Your speed is good.
Okay.
Just,
Those trees look tall.
Yeah, you don't want to hit them.
Okay.
Finally, this is the moment of truth. He's a little low and to the right. If he digs the right wing in, the plane will cartwheel with catastrophic consequences. Can a cameraman with no flight training land an airplane in Houston, Texas?
Okay. Shall I decrease my speed now?
Yep. Bring your power back to 0.
20.
Okay.
10.
He's done a great job landing, but the problem is the plane is hurtling down the runway at 150 miles an hour, and Devin can't find the brake pedals. When all else fails, there's always the handbrake.
Okay. Hey, I'm alive. Oh my god.
The plane is on the ground and 100 lives have been saved. Indicators show that he has blown a couple of tires on his main landing gear, but that's a small price to pay.
Pretty proud of myself, actually. I thought I was not going to be able to pull that off, but somehow I did, thanks to ATC.
I'm alive.
Airline Captain Jeff Lewis has some final thoughts on the landings made by the novices.
Overall, I was pretty impressed with both guys. Obviously, for Anthony, it represents a new step in technology, and the hardest part is absorbing all the information that's presented to you on the flight display screens here and analyzing what's going on with the aircraft. For Devin, this was a completely new experience, and I had to really talk him down, but I think the turning point was when Devin said, "Hey, this is just like a video game." And then it went really well. Up until that point, I was a little pessimistic, but congrats to both guys. Job well done, and the airplane's in one piece on both landings, but overall, everyone would have walked away from both of these landings.
The Aviators, for everyone who has ever gazed skywards.
For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv.
For the first time on TV, the stories and reports of the people who fly and the aircraft they fly. And you are invited in an exciting, pulse-pumping new television series designed for everyone who has ever gazed skywards and dreamt of slipping the bonds of Earth. The Aviators.
This week on The Aviators, we give you a look inside one of the most advanced air traffic control towers in the world. We check out a small-town air show, Quesnel Skyfest. We walk you through a walk-around inspection. And we talk to legendary bush pilot and TV host John Lovelace.
Yeah, well, my love of airplanes actually started in high school.
From the Boundary Bay Airport, this is The Aviators.
Almost all of us have taken a flight to one of the world's major airports. Air traffic control is responsible for the safe movement of aircraft all around the world. One of the most recognized symbols of air traffic control is a control tower. Today, the Aviators is going to take you behind the scenes.
Air traffic control is a vital part of keeping the skies safe and people moving across the continent. NAV Canada, the group responsible for air traffic control in Canada, operates 7 area control centres and 41 airport air traffic towers across the country. These towers and control centres handle almost 6 million aircraft movements annually. Today we are taking you inside the tower of Toronto's Pearson International Airport, the busiest airport in Canada. The Aviators' own Curtis Arnold is an air traffic controller with NAV Canada. Curtis spoke with fellow air traffic controller Gary Hines, who works at the Toronto Tower.
Air traffic controller essentially is to make sure planes stay apart. We ensure safe separation of airplanes from the time they leave the gate to the time they get airborne and to the time they reach their destination. We make sure that planes taxi when they taxi along the ground. We do so with instructions that taxi to and from the runway, and landing and takeoff clearance is also provided. We basically are the start of your trip and the end of your trip.
Worldwide, air traffic is controlled by 2 types of facilities. Radar stations, known as en route or area control centers, monitor the majority of air traffic, while airport towers monitor traffic within a control zone around an airport.
The control zone around Toronto is 7 nautical miles, and we work up to 2,500 feet above sea level. So basically with our elevation, we go about 2,000 feet above the ground, and that's our airspace. Every airplane and vehicle that enters our taxiways and runways has to have permission to do it. Any vehicle has to have permission to come on because the pilots are very busy in preparing for flight or at the end of their flight, and we take away that added stress and responsibility. We watch out for the pilots.
The tarmac of an airport is divided into several distinct sections. The apron is the paved area directly around the terminal, gates, and hangars of the airport. From here, airliners move out onto the taxiways, which are the roadways of the airport. Taxiways connect and intersect with various runways around the airport. Within the control tower, there are a number of positions that coordinate movement around these different areas.
Typically we run 5 positions up here with the supervisor. We have one ground controller here. He basically will work this half of the airport from where we're standing, what you see facing south towards the city. And again, we also have our other north ground controller to my right and works everything from this part to the north. From that point, the ground person will hand that off to our tower controller. We take the airport and we divide it in half. The one tower controller who deals with landing and taking off of one runway. The other tower controller is seated to the south side here, and he works the landing and departing runway down there.
Coordinating takeoffs and landings is one of the crucial parts of an air traffic controller's job. Aircraft routinely have to land on a runway that another aircraft took off from just moments before. The tower controller has to ensure that these aircraft have a safe separation between them.
We have a plane that will have to, what we call, line up on the runway. They'll have to taxi onto the runway, get ready for departure, while we still have another arrival coming in. And that arrival could be as close as 4 or 5 miles away. In the meantime, the tower controller is having the previous arrival clear the runway safely so that the departure airplane can then take off safely, which then would have a domino effect of having that next arrival land safely.
The Toronto Tower is unique as it's the first tower in the world to use an entirely paperless touchscreen control system. Traditionally, towers and area control centers use a combination of paper flight progress strips and computer software. In the Toronto Tower, flight strips are entirely computerized, allowing flights to easily flow between the various tower positions. Gary gave us a closer look at how the system works.
This display here is for our tower controller who's working the north runway right now. So we see this screen here is all the arrivals landing in Toronto, proposed within the next 10 to 15 minutes on the north runway. And we also have the information that the airplanes are landing on the south runway. This part here shows us that the plane is lining up on the runway, ready to take off. And momentarily, that plane will be cleared for takeoff and will be shown here. Right now, this airplane on our ground radar is this yellow dot right here and has been cleared for takeoff and will accelerate down the runway. Once this plane departs the runway, we will then see it show up on our airborne radar and it will be tracked out of Toronto.
The airborne radar has a range of 12 miles. This includes some overlap with airspace that's controlled by the en route control centers. As aircraft are coming into land, they transition in much the same way from one radar screen to another.
So what we see here is, for example, a WestJet 528. He's 2 miles final from landing on our north runway, runway 05. And this shows us that he's a Boeing 737. He's at an altitude of 1,300 feet, and right now he's doing 140 knots. So as we transition from WestJet landing on this runway here, we'll see a target land develop right here momentarily, and that will be him tracking down the runway, which is in black here. All these gray areas are taxiways, which are used for planes taxiing to and from the runway, either ending or starting of their trips.
So the controllers just cleared WestJet to land?
As we can see, he's rolling out and decelerating down the runway here.
So some of our viewers that may be a little bit familiar with air traffic control may be familiar with the concept of a flight strip. Can you explain what that's about?
This is the only information that we need to be able to move that airplane safely, either to the runway or away from the runway. His call sign is WestJet 528, airplane type, and that's the gate he's going to, C24.
Air traffic control is an extremely stressful job. While Toronto's systems may make things seem like a video game, each of those dots on the screen represents a very real aircraft weighing hundreds of thousands of pounds and with hundreds of people on board. The job takes months of training, and controllers are required to very strictly follow various regulations. But according to Gary, it's a job he would easily recommend to anyone.
I would absolutely recommend this job to a lot of people. Would I do this job again? In a minute. I love this job. I think it's one of the best jobs going. We have a great environment. We have technology that is world class. We have a great group of people that we all work together with. And this is my office. I come to this every day. What don't you love about this? Out the window, you have great sceneries. You have phenomenal sunsets and sunrises. You see thunderstorms coming. You see airplanes that you wonder how can they get in the air holding 350 people on a 15-hour flight going overseas to Japan or China, and you wonder how can that thing get in the air? And it does. And it's actually very amazing.
The Aviators has covered the 2 largest air shows in North America, AirVenture and Sun & Fun. In June 2010, we sent a crew into a small town in British Columbia to cover one of the smallest. The picturesque town of Quesnel, British Columbia, played host to its first ever air show, the Quesnel Skyfest. This one-day event attracted performers from all over Western Canada and the Northwestern United States. The Aviators TV crew had a chance to get out on the tarmac at Quesnel Regional Airport and talk to a number of the performers and pilots who flew in for the event.
This is the first time that Quesnel's had an air show. It's going to be very exciting for them. I'm sure they're hoping to make it into an annual event, so we're hoping this one goes off really well. It'd be really nice to see another another small airport like this having an annual air show. We need that in Canada. I think it's very exciting. My name is Ron Andrew, and I fly Pitts S2B. It's 260 horsepower, and it really does its thing. The aircraft is tube and fabric with wood spars in the wing and wooden ribs. It's very light, weighs slightly over 1,100 pounds. It'll cruise at 170 miles an hour. Put the nose down a little bit, it'll be over 200 miles an hour right away, and it'll go straight up for a long time. It'll fly upside down as good as it flies right way up. It doesn't care which way it's going.
So my instructor and I would.
The big shows are a lot of fun, but they're a lot of pressure. There's lots going on. The small shows, you get intimate with the crowd. You're right there with the pilots and with the people, and the whole community gets behind a show like this. And it's so good to see. You go drive through Quesnel and you see Welcome Skyfest and Skyfest this weekend, and lots happening in the media. And it's so good to see a town get together, a region get together to support this event.
The show's organizers were able to bring together an impressive number of performers for a first-time air show. This included a Russian Yak and 2004 Canadian National Aerobatic Champion Jim Rimac.
I fly a 1952 Mark IV Harvard, this machine right behind me. It was an intermediate trainer during the war. It trained hundreds of thousands of Commonwealth pilots during World War II, and after this machine they went on to fly fighters, Hurricanes and Mustangs and Spitfires and that sort of thing. So this is a post-war machine, 1952 model, and it was stationed throughout various bases in Canada. And I got it about 3 years ago. I used to fly the Pitt Special, and I would like to fly Hurricanes and Spitfires and Mustangs someday, so this is a great lead-in for that. What I love about this machine is that I've got the privilege to fly a vintage machine, and this one in particular, it trained several thousand pilots during the wartime and post-war. It's quite an honor, and I'm an Air Force veteran too, so it's sort of part of the heritage, I guess.
Making their way up from Washington was the team from Bud Grainley Air Shows. A father and son team, Bud and his son Ross fly a Yak 55 and a Yak 18T respectively. The Yak 55 is a thoroughbred aerobatic aircraft capable of tumbling and other complex aerobatic maneuvers. The Yak 18T, on the other hand, is a 4-seat aerobatic capable passenger aircraft. The Yak 18T's 360 horsepower radial engine can propel the aircraft to speeds of over 180 miles per hour. While they may be an unlikely pair of aircraft, the Grainleys put on an extremely entertaining air show. Also making an appearance was Team Rocket's Ken Fowler and Eric Hansen.
The airplanes we fly are called Harmon rockets. They're actually custom built. They're a home built aircraft. I built my rocket, Eric built his rocket. I've been flying mine since '97, so it's got a fair few hours on it. It's a very fast, very powerful, lightweight, home-built airplane.
My rocket, actually, I built from a kit. It's an F1 rocket, kitted out of Texas. I don't think they're kitting them anymore, but they might make them again here at some point. It's a terrific airplane. Came in 3 big boxes. I put it together over the course of about 13 months or so. People ask how I got it together in 13 months. I just tell them, well, I didn't watch TV for a year. And that's basically frees up a lot of time to work on an airplane. A fantastic airplane to fly. It does about 230 to 240 miles an hour on cruise. The airplane will climb about 3,500 to 4,000 feet a minute. It's got a good payload and good range.
According to Ken, the Quesnel Air Show grew quickly from a small fly-in, and the air show performers were more than happy to give the organizers a break when it came to price.
Anytime a new show comes along, performers tend to give breaks to the air shows, just to get them started. I mean, this is a small town. Small towns, it's a little tougher for them to raise the funds and get the sponsors, put the show together. So performers usually help out a little bit.
The event went off without a hitch. Organizers estimate about 2,500 people showed up to enjoy the show. Spectators were treated to a final formation flyby performed by Team Rocket and Jim Rimac. The Skyfest, combined with a stop by the 2010 Midnight Sun Challenge, is sure to make Quesnel a well-known aviation destination. The pilot in command of an aircraft, or PIC, is the person who shoulders the burden of responsibility for the safety of the flight. This includes all aspects of flight operations, passenger safety, and aircraft preparedness. Before an aircraft leaves the apron, pilots must perform a thorough pre-flight inspection known as a walk-around, as Curtis Arnold shows us.
We're here today with Wes Popplewell, Manager of Flight Standards at the Delta Connection Academy. Wes, can you tell us a little bit about the Delta Connection Academy and what it's for?
Yes, sir. Our objective is to train zero-time pilots to go all the way to the airlines. The program takes about 9 to 12 months, and we offer everything from private to commercial.
Fantastic. Now, one of the reasons we're specifically here to talk to Wes today is about the walk-around inspection, or the pre-flight inspection. Wes, why is it very important to do a walk-around and a comprehensive pre-flight?
The best way I can describe it is an airplane is in the air, and we as humans do not fly. So if we have an issue that we can find on the ground that we encounter up in the air, we can't just step outside the airplane and fix that problem. So the most important thing we need to do before any flight is our pre-flight.
Excellent. So the Delta Connection Academy has provided an aircraft for us today. Wes has set it up with a few squawks, and in a few minutes we're going to do a walk around and see what I can find. We're standing here in front of a 1981 Cessna 172P. This aircraft has been set up by Wes with a few snags that I'm supposed to fly in my walk-around inspection. In accordance with the pilot's operating handbook, we're going to begin our walk-around inspection inside the cockpit. Aircraft are required to operate with an approved pilot's operating handbook. We have one of those here. Aircraft are also subject to a number of different inspections, so we want to check and make sure that we have the appropriate paperwork in order to go flying. This is the horizontal stabilizer and the elevator. And we're going to check for general condition and fasteners. Next we'll check the rudder. So we want to check the rudder for freedom of movement. We want to make sure that all the connections to the controls are appropriate, that they have cotter keys on them, and that the tail's in generally good condition. These are static wicks. These are required if you're going to fly in clouds. It helps dissipate any static electricity that may develop on the aircraft. We'll have a look underneath the aircraft here at the trim actuator. And one of the things that I've noticed here is that there's a cotter pin missing. Because this aircraft's been specifically set up to have a number of discrepancies, I've got a checklist here where I'm supposed to write down. We'll see how I did at the end. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the flaps. From this vantage point up on the top of the wing, you get to have a general look at the condition of the wing itself. We can see that there's one missing fastener here. It looks like a screw popped off. That won't keep us from going flying today. The most important part, though, is to look at the fuel cap. We want to open it up and look in the tank. If we had a dipstick, we could check and make sure how much fuel is in there. But it's also very important to make sure that the fuel cap is on tight. As a kid, if you've ever blown over the top of a straw in a glass of water and it sucks the water up the straw, if the fuel cap is not appropriately tightened on the top of the wing, it'll siphon the fuel out of the airplane when you fly. Come around here to the front, and you can see that a number of very important fasteners that hold the cowling together, specifically the nose bowl of the aircraft together, are missing as well. The pre-flight inspections normally end up back at the cockpit because it would normally be time to go flying. But we've identified a number of squawks we've got to go check into. All right, we finished the walk-around challenge here. I got a clipboard with a list of a number of discrepancies I've found, but I've got some blank spots. So we're going to talk to Wes and see what I caught and see what I missed.
All right.
All right, Wes, I noticed that there were some missing seatbelt pieces in the back seat.
That's correct.
2 instances of missing cotter pins, both on the left landing gear axle and on the trim actuator.
Good job on detail.
Noticed that there were some missing fasteners that look kind of important in the cowling.
Very important.
Also noticed somebody was unkind and shoved a piece of paper up the exhaust stack.
That's not good.
That's not good. That could be expensive. From a paperwork perspective, we noticed that someone had transposed the numbers in the aircraft item on the C of A. We also noticed that the aircraft registration was pink, which means it's a temporary registration. Since that was sent in at the beginning of the year, we should have received our permanent registration by now. But I got some missing spots here, so what did I miss?
Yes, you do. There's the nav lights were swapped.
Well, that's kind of important.
And safety wire missing from the right brake.
Okay, so what that means is that where the brake caliper attaches, there's some safety wire to make sure that the bolts don't back out, and apparently I missed the fact that it was missing.
That's right. And then the pilot seat stop was missing.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about that?
There's actually an airworthiness directive for that. And what happened was that those back stops were failing.
Okay, so an airworthiness directive is something that's issued by the FAA. It's generally type specific, so it must apply to the Cessna 172. And in this case, it would require all 172s to have this seat stop, and this one's missing.
That's correct.
What else did I miss?
That's it.
That's it? That's not bad. I missed 4 things, one of which is very specific to this aircraft. Well, thanks very much, Wes, for this opportunity. This is a great exercise to take pilots like myself and make sure we don't take too much for granted doing our walk-arounds.
Good job. Fly safe.
Thank you very much.
The Aviators is not only a show for pilots and aviation fans, it's also produced by pilots. The Aviators' creator and director, John Lovelace, took his first flight lesson in Brampton, Ontario in 1970. In 1979, he bought his first airplane, a Cessna 172 on floats. For 25 years, John was active in the construction business, serving as president and CEO of companies that would build more than 2,000 housing units. But his passion was always flying, and he would prefer a day at a fishing camp over life in the boardroom. This passion would take him all over Eastern Canada in a pair of Cessna 206 amphibians. In the 90s, John turned his attention to television production, and in the process produced almost 200 flying shows. That would make him one of the most recognized pilots in the country. Recently, John had a chance to sit down with our crews to discuss his history and future in aviation.
Yeah, well, my love of airplanes actually started in high school, and it was all about boats, not airplanes. For my class project, I built a hydroplane because I wanted to go fast on the water, and that was in grade 11. And I went through a progression of boats, and finally I had a boat when I was 25 that would go 80 miles an hour on the water. So I decided that the only way I could really get more speed was to put wings on it. So I went out in 1979 and bought a 172 on Cap 2000 floats, and that was the beginning of a lifelong affair with this beautiful machine called an airplane.
Always a headstrong individual, John actually purchased the 172 before he had his pilot's license. This pushed John to get his license and led to what he describes as one of his fondest memories.
One of the happiest days of my life was when I soloed. And I was up there at 3,000 feet, and I looked down and I thought to myself, what am I doing up here? Because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to land the airplane. From there, I went on to floats and flew for a number of years, exploring Quebec and Ontario in the hinterland, doing some fishing, and it was just a great lifestyle. It was a lot of fun back then with my kids and my friends.
Like most pilots, John eventually developed a want for more horsepower and a need to go farther. In 1985, this led John to buy his first Cessna 206 amphibian.
The 206 amphibian gave me a lot more range, and I could put a lot more in it. In fact, I remember on my first takeoff, I had asked the guy I'd bought it from what I could do with the airplane, and he said, well, I'll tell you what you can do, John. You fill up the tanks, put 4 guys in it, and away you go fishing and burn off half your fuel, and then you can take off from the water. No problem. So I remember the first time I took off, the main runway wasn't usable, so I had to use a shorter 3,200-foot runway. I was charging down the runway with the 4 guys in the airplane and full fuel and all our gear, and I got thinking, this airplane doesn't seem to want to fly, and I thought, I wonder if this guy was leveling with me, if it would really do what he said it was going to do. But sure enough, as I got towards the end of the runway, finally I nursed it into the air, and that was my first flight with the 206. I will tell you that airplane was a water lover. It was nip and tuck sometimes, especially if there was no wind, if I'd ever get it in the air.
Flying in the 206, John ventured all across North America. Regardless of where he found himself, there was always a community of pilots with interesting stories to tell. This eventually led John into his second career in television production.
What I've noticed most about flying is the great camaraderie. It doesn't make any difference what you're flying, how much experience you have, or where you're flying. It's always the same. Also, flying around for years and years and years when I was doing the Wings Over Canada television series, we were always going into areas that we didn't have support, we didn't know anybody, and always the aviation community would come out and say, you want to borrow my truck, if you need a hand getting some fuel, whatever it was, everybody was really helpful. And I don't think it was because we were there with cameras, because sometimes we weren't there with cameras, and the camaraderie was the same. And so it's a club. Anybody who's a pilot, it's a club. The guy comes up here today and he's a 747 captain, or if he flies an ultralight, it doesn't make any difference. It's just that ability that we have to get up into the air and get away from the ground, and that gives us this unique bond that only pilots have.
In 2007, John traded in his floats for a twin-engine Piper. From the cockpit of his prized Navajo, he led over 100 airplanes across the country in 2009.
One of the biggest privileges I've ever had in flying was in 2009 when I got to lead 100 airplanes across the country for the celebration of the 100th anniversary of flight in Canada. And it was just terrific. We started off in Vancouver and ended up in Nova Scotia, ended up at Bedeck, which is where the first flight was. And it was terrific. Everybody got along really well. Everybody flew really well. And the camaraderie was great. There was a few little mechanical problems. There was weather issues, but everybody pitched in. And when we got there, it was very emotional. And I know there was a lot of had teary eyes at our closing banquet because we felt we'd really achieved something. We all knew, of course, that we were not going to be there for the next 100th year anniversary, but to be here flying in Canada at this time, this particular time in history, is a pleasure for all of us, and it was a wonderful moment.
Today, John routinely flies his Navajo all across British Columbia. With 2 television shows on the go, The Aviators and West Coast Escapes, John also is involved in the real estate business across BC. Regardless of his day job, John will always find a way to keep himself in the air.
The future of aviation, I think, is in the light sport end of the business, and these are a brand new generation of aircraft that are coming in, made out of composites. They're much cheaper than old style of putting airplanes together with rivets. These are great airplanes, but the problem is to keep one of these in the air is very, very expensive. And if I wasn't using it for business, I would never be able to rationalize the expense of a Navajo. But to be able to jump in my own airplane, which would be a composite, one of the new flying boats that they're making, would be just terrific. And I think that's where the future of this entire general aviation is going in the years to come.
The Aviators, for everyone who has ever gazed skywards.
For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv.